It's a heat wave. It's a CU podcast heat wave. What? For August 2nd, Tuesday, 2016, alongside Ian Ferguson.
Howdy.
Happy as always. I'm Pat Contry. We got a lot of cool stuff to talk about in the podcast. Suicide Squad reviews are just coming in. We have the release and reviews coming in for the Xbox One S. Oh boy, am I excited. Pokemon Go shenanigans going on. New Sonic games, 2 of them. New Nintendo NX details. And your Q&A, among other things. But first, we have a few sponsors. You guys have heard me talk about Loot Crate before. They're the ones who send you collectibles, apparel, and more right to your door every single month. Ian, you've seen this stuff before. You like it, for the most part. It's fantastic stuff. And you have franchises, Marvel, DC heroes. You get Doctor Who stuff in there, video game characters every once in a while, and it's all for less than $20 a month. August is going to feature anti-heroes.
We got Hellboy.
You got Kill Bill. It's going to be in there. Archer, one of my favorites. On FX, it's going to come back for 3 new seasons. Actually, Archer. You're going to get at least two great collectibles, something wearable, and of course, you get a monthly tee. You always get a T-shirt now. They went away from it for a while. They came back. Now you always get a T-shirt, which is always good. And you see people wearing them at conventions, like that RoboCop one. I
see them everywhere.
I always wear that Power Rangers one with the white and green Ranger. It's always cool. And now they also have an upgrade available called Level Up. Now it's going to be called Lootwear, though. It's Level Up, now it's Lootwear. So it's basically an upgrade to your normal Loot Crate, and then you'll get at least a wearable item in there, like another T-shirt or something else. The August Lootwear Crate is going to deliver stuff from Punisher, Suicide Squad, World of Warcraft, Harley Quinn, and Archer. So go to lootcrate.com/PAD, enter promo code PAD to save 10% off any new subscription to any Loot Crate, including Lootwear. And you have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific time to subscribe and receive that month's crate, which is going to be the anti-hero.
And our next sponsor is ArcadeWorks, the makers of the Omega Entertainment Machine. Hands down the best way to play Neo Geo arcade games from the comfort of your own couch. Sporting a design inspired by the legendary home system, the Omega utilizes the low-cost MVS format to finally put Neo Geo gaming within financial reach. Each Omega ships with the latest Unibios, and the optional virtual memory card upgrade lets people save their progress in high scores, so get yours today at arcadeworks.net. Use coupon code OMEGANOW for $10 off the purchase of an Omega Entertainment Machine.
And we also have something for you guys to do if you have a couple minutes to spare. We'd like you guys to go to cupodcastsurvey.com and basically take a short survey about demographics, about who you are, what you listen to besides this podcast, if you listen to any other podcast, what your general interests are. I mean, we know, but we'd like to find out as well. And it's not mandatory, but if you want to, if you send in your email address at the end of that survey, you'll be entered to win a chance to get a digital copy of Ultimate Nintendo Guide to the NES Library.
A certain
guidebook. So it's not mandatory. The email address that's collected is only used for the giveaway, nothing else. It won't be sold. It won't be used for spam or anything else. So again, it's a short survey. If you want to take it, I'd be very appreciative for Ian and I to do that. And it's totally anonymous and it's quick. So again, that's cupodcastsurvey.com for that. So Ian, what's been going on in the world? How was Comic-Con?
Comic-Con was a lot of fun for me this year, but I'm kind of realizing after maybe 8 or 9 of these that not only is my experience changing for reasons of Comic-Con for me has always been more of a social experience than I think a lot of people go to Comic-Con for panels and things like that. And I've done it in exactly one panel in my entire Comic-Con career. And
wow.
that was, I went to the initial Street Fighter 4 panel. My friend Brandon had to go as press to do a write-up on it. And him, myself, and a handful of friends went. And, it was fun to see. It was before Street Fighter 4 came out. But I've always viewed it as a big nerdy shopping mall. I take a relatively robust budget, and I buy a lot of comics to read for the upcoming year. But a lot of my friends can't come down anymore. They haven't been able to, and this year was relatively light on it. And I used to have a lot of fun exploring the different booths and, discovering new stuff. But, a lot of these people don't want to give up their booths. So it's harder to find new stuff. You're seeing
it's the same stuff
you're
every
seeing
year.
new stuff
Same
every year.
spots every year, same merchandise.
So it's great because I've discovered a lot of great booths, but now my shopping is done in the course of half a day. I hit these same booths every year, and they get my money every year, and that's great. I only have 1 day of hauling around heavy bags instead of 4. But if I don't have friends or constant, social obligations, it's harder and harder for me to fill up these days. This was, I think, the first Comic-Con that I did not spend basically open to close there every day. That said, I still had a really good time. I did hang out with a bunch of new friends that are local, who do comic book stuff, including my friend Adam, who's a colorist on Nailbiter. It was really good to spend some time with him. And we had our panel with James and Pixel Dan and Andre Meadows, and it was really fun to get to see them. And at the end of the day on Sunday, I look back on it, and I was happy that I had spent all the time at Comic-Con I did. But I think in the future, I'd probably be good with 2 days. The thing is, Comic-Con is kind of the centerpiece of my summer. It's what I look forward to every year. And when I'm not there, I feel like I'm missing something. But I think this year I really kind of realized that maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not missing something if I don't go all 4 days. So it was a great time, but I think maybe next year I'll cool on it a little bit in terms of the amount of time I actually spend at the convention.
I did 3 days, and I think my days of 4 days, my years of 4 days at Comic-Con are over. Last year I did 4. I think I was going to do 3, and I did 4, and I regretted that because I'm just worn out.
Really? I thought you did 2 last year. I thought you really cut down.
Then I at least did 3 last year.
Okay.
I at least did 3. But this year I skipped Thursday, missed nothing. I could have probably even skipped Friday if I wanted to, except that I was hanging out with James. I felt that would be bad. So I wanted to hang out with James, obviously, show him around. He stayed here.
I would have totally skipped Sunday if it wasn't for the fact that we had our panel.
So Friday I got my my NECA Ninja Turtles arcade figures. That was fun.
Nice.
No box to fit in him. Like they gave me those big shipping boxes, but they fit like 6, so it was really awkward me carrying them around downtown, going to a place to eat. That was fun. But it was great. I met Bear McCreary, who's a composer for James's movies. He's also a composer on Walking Dead and video games, so he was a really nice guy. Absolutely nice. I met him at Tin Fish, where I ran into for the second year in a row Sean Baby again. This time I was with James, and so I got to... James met Sean Baby, I think, for the first time, I believe. And they got a picture together. It was kind of cool. Sort of the meeting of the, angry NES reviewers or angry old video game reviewers together from different
The old guard.
Yeah. Well, one from 99 and one from 2006, So that was a cool picture. I never thought I would, be in a picture with all... If you asked me, like, even, 7-8 years ago, I'd be in a picture with James Rolfe and Sean Baby. I'd be like, you'll be kidding me. So that was fun. And then... the panel I thought went very well. For Sunday afternoon, it was totally packed, and there was people. I hear at least 100 people waiting outside again. The panel couldn't get in. So sorry, guys, we're way too popular for you for the room space. So hopefully next year another panel will be possible. And then hung out with Frank, who was whining and complaining on Sunday. Almost didn't go to the panel, but this thing he was hangry, needed some food. And I'm like, Frank, you better go to the panels. That's the only reason you're in Comic-Con this year, because I got you in.
I felt like you should have just let Frank do whatever the hell he wanted to do.
Hey, that's fine. Then I ain't getting him in next year. That's all. Come on, Frank. You got to show some respect for that.
What was he supposed to enjoy out of that panel?
He said he enjoyed it afterwards. He honestly said he enjoyed it. He actually learned stuff.
As long as
he was
had
just
fun.
being a whiny baby before. Frank can be pretty much a brat sometimes. But Frank had fun. We always have fun looking for the trade paperbacks, the half-priced ones. I bought about 4 or 5 this year, half-price ones. I got the Iron Man Armor Wars one, the arc from like the mid-'80s. I always wanted to read that one. And I got the Streets of Poison. That was like the 1 or 2 year period. I want to say like 91 in Captain America when Diamondback was there. And I think you had some other stuff going on with Black Widow. I think maybe getting in and out of there, and Bullseye showed up. So that's when I was kind of regularly reading comic books. I read some of that in the early 90s. Because now I guess Marvel's putting out these collections where before, they did the Marvel Masterworks, where it was like, the first like whatever 10 years. So now every major comic I think is having 2-year sets for everything. So you can buy like 80s and 90s like 2 years in one, like 24 issues in one trade paperback. So
Nice.
I started seeing those. Anyway, so that was fun. We'll see about next year for Comic-Con. In terms of upcoming events, I'll be at Game On Expo this weekend, August 5th in Mesa, Arizona. And then the SoCal Retro Gaming Expo, August 20th in City of Industry at the Frank and Son Collectibles Show. Ian might be a last-minute edition. We're not sure.
No, actually,
I won't be a last-minute
hate
edition.
to say it, saw my work schedule for this month. I officially will not be at that one. My convention schedule starts to open up in September. I'll definitely be at Portland, and what conventions are coming up in November?
Syracuse.
Yeah, I might be able to
Might
do
do that one.
Syracuse.
That'll be that one will be tough just because that'll be a week before maybe the NES Marathon. But we'll see what happens with that. So, other than that, there's new Ask Frank out. The book's available at ultimatenes.com. Beta testing's beginning relatively soon on the NES app. That's right. So let's get into it. This hot off the presses. Xbox One S are getting into websites' hands like GameSpot and IGN, and reviews are starting to come out on the Xbox One.
Well, it's available today publicly, and it appears to be your basic redesign with some slight buffs to it.
So let's go over what the One S is.
So it's a slimmer version of the original Xbox One. It does not come bundled with the Kinect. They've officially jettisoned that extraneous
failed experiment.
peripheral that no one wanted. It's more compact, and
Has a power supply built into it.
it has the power supply built into it, which is great for people who need to put it into a smaller space or who want it to lie flush against the wall. It's 40% smaller, and it's noticeably quieter, and it runs a lot cooler.
Ultra HD Blu-ray drive for 4K movie playback.
Right. It can do 4K, and it can also do what is it called?
HDR.
The HDR.
High dynamic range, which is basically
A better contrast between your blacks and your whites.
yeah. So like in the same shot, you would noticeably if like say you have a shadow on some ice patch, and you have the biggest range you'd be able to see more dynamic. I guess the colors, extremes, things like that. That's basically what it is. Better contrast ratio, if you want to put it more simply.
So what this means, I think, in general is from my standpoint as a manager of a place that does repairs, is this likely will be in the long run a more reliable version of the Xbox One, and probably what they should have done in the first place. Although who knows how feasible it would have been at that price point. I believe this is the 2 terabyte model that's been released.
Should be $399.
Right, and there will be a 1 terabyte model and a 500 gigabyte model that will be
$299.
$349 and $299 respectively. They are being launched at the end of this month. This is sort of a move to get the hardcore or the diehards to adopt early, and then the people who are a little bit more casual about this to jump in. Or to wait and jump in a little bit later. I kind of see this as a pointless stopgap between the original Xbox One and the Project Scorpio next year, which sounds like a far more significant upgrade. Depending on who you listen to and talk to, even a far more significant upgrade than what Sony's doing with the PlayStation Neo. This, however, could be a great entry point for those who never got into the Xbox One, would like to get into it, but perhaps do not care about the extra power afforded to them by the Project Scorpio, or perhaps have a gaming PC but would like access to Xbox One exclusives earlier on, or would like access to things that aren't going to be available on PC. My question is, with Microsoft's continuing interest in kind of blurring the line between their Xbox brand and their Windows 10 brand, I'm really starting to wonder what the hell the point of the Xbox One is as a whole.
Sure, but I guess the One S wants to capitalize on the 4K. So you shouldn't get this if you don't have a 4K TV. First and foremost, and a lot of people still don't, because a lot of people just end up getting their new LEDs the past like 3-4 years. Do you really want to spend double that and spend $2,000 on a 4K TV? Probably not. what is it? I think the GPU is slightly faster. So for some older games, it will be able to unlock or smooth out the frame rates. That has been confirmed. I don't know about all of them, but it looks like last year's Rise of the Tomb Raider might be faster or smoother for the frame rate. But it's not going to be universal. It's going to be like, can it tap into whatever the game? I guess the game had latent functionality for the future already built into it to enable it, to do more effects or to smooth out the frame rate. So if you don't have the 4K TV, this obviously isn't for you. If you just got an Xbox One within the past year or two, this isn't for you. If you're waiting for Project Scorpio next year, which is going to be a significant upgrade over this isn't for you. So then, it's for that, I guess, person that has to have the top of the line technology for their Xbox console, but isn't willing to wait another year to get the one they're going to buy anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think this is... It almost seems like, to retract my previous statement, this is for the person who is going to get the Scorpio and feels like they need every single upgrade.
Sure.
I mean, I'll admit, this is kind of aimed at the market. This is kind of aimed at the person like me, but the way I am for a Nintendo 3DS, the way certain people are for their iPhones. I basically buy every 3DS iteration. There are people who will buy every iteration of an iPhone, and there are people who will probably buy every iteration of an Xbox One. Which is interesting, just because the Xbox One is shown to be greatly lagging in sales. Well, at least lagging in sales. I won't use the hyperbole without the current numbers, which have not been released. But it was 10 million, and then it was 20 million compared to the PS4. That's not particularly great, at least not in the US. So there is a hardcore fan base for it, that much I know. But yeah, it just seemed like an odd move on Microsoft's part.
If you want to get an Ultra Blu-ray player, then you might as well get this, because they're at least $200 to get those, maybe $300. So it's the same price to get that in the console. The same way people bought DVD, instead of buying a DVD player, they bought the PS2 because it was the same price as a DVD player.
Yeah.
So you might as well just do that. But like I always say, Blu-ray is not getting adopted far and wide, and I highly doubt that Ultra Blu-ray is going to be adopted even close to what Blu-ray is. Because why would you then have to deal with another technology that's antiquated with a new one that's going to be antiquated already? It's like you're just spinning your wheels on old technology, and it doesn't make any sense anymore. Since everyone's going away from physical media in general, it'd be one thing if you're just buying the console, and then you got to buy a TV to match it. So it's like, okay, now it's not an investment of just $300; it's an investment of $2,300. If you want a 50-inch, 4K TV. So it's kind of weird at that point. You're kind of really getting down to that technophile.
Well, and that's the thing. I think there's this... The technophiles are the ones who speak the loudest about this stuff, which creates an inaccurate portrayal of how many people are actually interested in 4K TVs and technology like this. When in reality, I think a number of people are going to be just fine with 1080p for a long, long time.
Absolutely.
I really don't think 4K in living rooms is going to be something that is common for quite some time.
And remember, the games coming out have to support this HDR. Not all of them will, coming out in order to have it display on the TV with it. So, it's a weird stopgap, and I don't think it's going to do particularly well unless they just wipe the other Xbox ones off the shelves and pretend they don't exist, and then put this one out.
Yeah.
But there's probably still so much old stock already out there that they might have to drop the price of that to only $200. In order.
They're already selling for like $229 used or something like that.
They drop it a little more.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of nuts.
All right, Ian, what's been going on with this Marvel Ultimate Alliance re-release?
Well, the Marvel Ultimate Alliance series is kind of like a mix between like a Gauntlet or a Baldur's Gate type, not the classic PC RPGs, but the console Dark Alliance series. They're dungeon crawlers that utilize the Marvel universe and the Marvel characters, where you go through levels, you beat up enemies, you gain experience, and you get skill trees. You can unlock more powers for your characters, and people love them. Especially Marvel fans. You usually have a large selection of Marvel superheroes to pick from. They stemmed from the X-Men Legends series, which was what spawned the whole series. And they're beloved, and for a long time they disappeared due to licensing. The Marvel license is notoriously flitters between companies, and somehow Activision has gotten this back and has decided to re-release them because fans love them. Well, they really kind of botched this re-release. They re-released both of them at $40 each for games that...
How old are these games?
Well, the first one is old enough to have PlayStation 1 and Xbox versions. Those were the original, or PlayStation 2 and Xbox versions.
So like 2006 about?
I think earlier than that. Those were the original consoles they came out on. They also got Xbox 360 and PS3 releases.
Yeah, 2006.
You're right. Yeah, about 2006, around the time
October
those consoles
2006.
released. And then Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2 was probably about 2 years later, maybe 3 years later, 2009. And they released on Steam, and they had, and I believe Xbox One and PS4, with no controller support on the Steam releases, which is just, an absolutely stupid and glaring oversight. And for the $40 price tag, or you could buy both for $60, they had none of the original DLC packed in, which was like an additional 6 or 7 characters at least for the second version.
Wow.
And a number of performance issues described for both. So this is a classic Activision cash grab. And basically, they slapped an insanely high price tag on 2 games, hoping to appeal to the nostalgia market for 2 games that were well received, and hoping that the fanboys and the people who fondly remembered these would pay out for them. Luckily, it seems like Marvel are being the good guys in this and caught wind of the
mouse caught wind?
Yeah, caught wind of the problems, and currently, since this article has come out, they're working on fixing the problems and basically forcing Activision's hand to include the DLC in both games and fix the performance issues, add the controller support to Steam, and basically make these worth the price point, or at least as worth the price point as you can. I highly doubt Activision's going to change the price point. That would do nothing but piss off the people who have already bought them at this price point. So I don't see the price point changing.
Yeah, Bill Roseman, the creative director at Marvel Games, actually went on Twitter and said the add-on content and PC fixes are on the way. So yeah, they're not happy because this is, at the end of the day, this is still a game with their characters.
Yeah, and it's going to make them look bad if they don't fix it, even if Activision publishes it. A lot of people have a tough time separating developer from publisher, from character license. So it only behooves Marvel to fix this mess as quickly as they can and make this look as good as they possibly can.
Yeah, they send their goon squad over to Activision and tell them, "Hey, fuckers, you ever want to work with us again? You're gonna fix this."
And I believe like the ad for, or the advertising text for the first one even said the Hulk was going to be the Hulk was included in the first one, which was originally like I think a pre-order bonus or something like that, or in a DLC pack. And of course he wasn't in the game when you downloaded it because he was part of a DLC pack, or he was a pre-order bonus. So people were immediately pissed about that because they downloaded it and they went to go play as the Hulk and he's nowhere to be found. So good one, Activision.
This is where having a huge scary corporation like Disney is actually working in the consumer's favor. Because at the end of the day, they want your money, Disney. They want to make sure you have fun. If you have more fun, they get more of your money. Everyone wins.
Yeah, exactly.
They want to make Disney as fun as possible. That's why when someone dies horribly, they get the body away and hose it all down quickly so you go back on that ride as someone just got decapitated on. And you look up the deaths at Disney list. It's really fun to read. But anyway, so I'm glad that Disney's stepping in and saying, all right, let's take care of this mess, Activision, because this is a game that came out before Disney owned these characters, but they're still now it's still their baby though. It's still, they have to watch out for it. So good on them for putting the pressure on. That probably was not a pleasant phone call to
No. No, I can't imagine it was.
Ever seen the South Park with Mickey going around beating the shit out of people with a bat?
No.
Probably something like that. All right, so lots of more Pokemon Go news. It's still in the news. It's still tons of fun for everyone, Ian.
I'm enjoying it still, although a lot of people are complaining about it. Before I get into that, though, I wrongly guessed at how quickly I thought the burn off on this game was going to be.
You said like a month or a couple weeks?
I honestly thought it was only going to take maybe 2 weeks, and Vonnie and I went out for ice cream last night, and we're playing a little as we're walking around up and down the street, and I mean there was a mom and her kid playing, and at the ice cream shop we're sitting outside at the table and there's people playing. We went out for lunch yesterday. Vonnie and I haven't had a day off together in like 2.5 weeks because of Comic-Con and work schedules and stuff like that. So we were out and about yesterday, and everyone's still playing the game, and I mean that really kind of makes me happy to a degree, seeing people out and having a good time. But Niantic made some changes recently, and probably their biggest update, and a lot of them are upsetting people, and I'm sure I'll get flack for this because I get flack for fucking everything, but some of these changes I don't necessarily understand why they're upsetting people. The first big change is that Pokemon tracking has been completely not completely removed, but changed for what many people say is the worst. Except for the fact that Pokemon tracking never worked in the first place. Oh. So Pokemon tracking, when you're playing the game, in the lower right-hand corner, it would show 3 Pokemon, and underneath it would be footprints. Ideally, how this was supposed to work would be 3 footprints meant that they were within 200 meters of each other, within 200 meters of you. 2 footprints would mean 100, and 1 footprint would mean 50, and no footprints meant that it was real close to you. And if you started tapping within your circle area, like the radius that would ping out from you, you might get it to pop up without it just showing up randomly. Because most of the time
you can see it, and you can try to capture it.
Yeah. Now, most of the time, the Pokemon would just appear if you were close enough, but you could sometimes, rattle them out of the bushes or whatever.
Okay.
So, problem was there was something known as the 3-step glitch, and that was basically all Pokemon were always shown to be 3 steps away. Only ever once did I ever see Pokemon not 3 steps away, and that was once I saw no footprints under a Pokemon. I tapped wildly, and it appeared. Every other time I played, since the very beginning of me playing, it was always 3 steps away. So, in essence, Pokemon tracking has always been broken.
It's always been broken.
It's always been broken. So, in the new update, they completely eliminated the footprints instead of fixing the problem. Now, supposedly, Niantic has said they're not going to fix it. And they said they're not going to fix it because they've determined that it would cause too many problems. And I think their big fear is that with the footprints there, kind of giving you a rough idea of how close you might be, you're more likely to start wandering into places you maybe shouldn't be wandering into. So if you get too close to private property or something like that, you might start wandering into it. But this has really pissed off a lot of people, essentially taking a part of the game out that they thought would improve the experience. On one hand, I get it. You kind of want to know when you're getting closer to a Pokemon, but on the other hand, it never worked, and it never bothered people's initial enjoyment of it. So you're complaining about the removal, quote unquote, of a feature that was never really there in the first place.
Sure.
So that's one point I don't get. The other is the shutdown of external tracking sites. A lot of these used sort of hacking into Niantic's data to basically show you what Pokemon were more common in what areas at any given time. Basically so that you could sort of cheat the game, log onto these websites and look at maps and sort of see where the Pokemon were. Now, from what I understand, some of these were word of mouth, which is kind of okay. That I'm sort of okay with. The game is designed to foster community, and that's all right. But I also have no issue with Niantic looking at some of these and shutting down the ones that are against their terms of service. That's totally within their right. And if you're messing with their program, I also don't really see a whole lot of issue with this. Some more innocuous or less problematic updates. Now when you start the game, it's pretty funny. As soon as you start the game, it gives you a series of warnings, such as do not play Pokemon Go while driving.
Oh, yeah.
Or do not trespass onto private property while driving. Or when you start the game and it's loading, it says, be aware of your surroundings. And then when it loads you into the game screen, sometimes it will again say, please be aware of your surroundings. Because people are driving while playing Pokemon. People are constantly bumping into people while playing Pokemon, and they're not being aware of their surroundings. There's a story from Australia.
Oh, yeah.
About that park in Australia that I'm not sure what makes this one so special because it shows 3 Pokestops that constantly have lures, and if you go to Balboa Park in San Diego, for instance, it's the same thing where people crowd there at night.
What makes this is in the middle of a suburb,
right? Sure,
so people live there. So basically, their park went from being quiet to overrun with people.
Yeah,
like we're talking a little vandalizing. We're talking the fields being destroyed because grass walked on too much becomes like mud and dirt. I saw a video where they were clogging the streets. This is let's see, Patterson Park. So basically, there was a video at night where people are on the sidewalks, both sides, and cars literally have to honk to get people out of the way.
Right. There was a story about how a fire truck couldn't get through because people were crowding the streets, and they couldn't get to a fire in a timely manner.
Oh, assuming it's Peg Patterson Park. That's what it is.
And, I mean, obviously, that's ridiculous. And, that's when a game gets taken too far. I love this game. I love that it's bringing people together. I like the fact that it's creating, a social scene around it. But people have got to use their heads. You got to stay out of the streets. You can't fucking be blocking a goddamn fire truck.
Is this, I guess, the weird part where, like, people are traveling, looks like,
upwards of 12
miles away to get to this park to capture more Pokemon. It's like... That's, to me, again, that's where I'm totally disconnected this. Objectively, that's where it gets scary to me. When it drives people to do things like that, and then now the whole neighborhood gets turned upside down for a while. But they did put in a request, Niantic, to get rid of that as, was it 3 Pokestops in one location? They were eliminated, so no one's going there anymore. So I guess they'll have to iron out these. Well, that's a real life bug.
Yeah.
That's fucked with people, like. But what can you do?
There are a couple other updates, just 2 more that I'll touch on. I think there was probably a couple more, but just 2 more that I'll touch on that have got one in particular I don't understand. People were complaining that, in some areas you can't catch certain Pokemon, or that certain common Pokemon were appearing too often. Well, you know what? In the game, common Pokemon appear too often too. It's realistic to the game. Yeah. So various like Pokemon spawning, how the Pokemon spawn, are spawning more varied Pokemon, and this has led to some unrealistic things like certain water Pokemon spawning in like dry or deserty areas, which. And some certain common Pokemon are spawning slightly less, and now people are complaining about this. Which is ridiculous. One major complaint, though, that I do have a beef with is in the iOS version, they took out the battery saver mode. Now, what the battery saver mode does is if you turn your phone upside down, it darkens the screen so as to save some of your battery.
Okay. It's not always on.
Now, so the game stays on, and it will vibrate if a Pokemon pops up, so that you can, pull your phone out of your pocket, flip it back upwards, and then, go about what playing the game. But it caused a lot of errors, so that when you pulled it out and then you flipped it back upwards, the screen would go dark again. I imagine this is something that Niantic is going to work on and hopefully, reinstitute. But what's interesting is that these changes have caused the game to go from a pretty high star rating all the way down to like a 1.5 star rating. And it's people complaining to complain. They say that Pokemon are running away more in battle. Some people see this as being an attempt to, waste Pokeballs and get people to spend more money on it. My current play experiences, I haven't really seen a higher occurrence of this, but I'm not going to doubt people when they say that's the truth. Also, it is a free-to-play game. They want you to spend money. I have dumped exactly $0 into this game since playing and have had a really enjoyable experience. Vani, who plays it a lot more than me, has put $10 into it and has probably gotten over $60 worth of. I mean, if you try to compare it to a game that you buy off the shelf, she's probably gotten far more than $60 worth of game enjoyment out of it. So I can't necessarily fault them for looking at it and being like, well, maybe our pay-to-play model was a little too lenient.
Yeah, and this is before they're going to put in, player versus player battles.
Yeah.
Which would be great because you'll have people getting pissed at each other in person and then, they'll go from looking at their phones to swinging at each other with fists when their Pokemon gets defeated. So, interesting things happening because of this phenomenon that I predicted would die down after 6 months. We'll see. We're almost a month in right now. Pokedates from Project Fix-Up. So Project Fix-Up is, I guess, a newer form of internet dating. Not familiar with it at all. Where they set up sort of like they put you in touch with people. I guess it's more of like searching for people and they sort of find a match for you to go out on dates or meet up at a certain area. I don't know. I'm not. Maybe for the podcast I can experiment. I can go on Project Fix-Up and see what happens. That'll get me playing Pokemon Go for Pokedates. So this is how Pokedates works. So you answer a few questions about yourself and what you seek in a Pokedate. And then one of the specialists will review your Poke profile, so they're altering their regular Project Fix-Up just for Pokemon Go days. You share your schedule. You confirm your Poke date once I guess it comes to you. Do you want to go out with this person? And your first Poke date is free. I have no idea what the cost is, but they want to get you hooked. Then after that, catch them all together. Does show up to the right place and time. Can barely read it because it's like white on yellow font. It's really small. And catch them all together on your Poke date. So it says Pokemon Go is arguably the best idea of the 21st century. Absolutely. It's the best idea. Biotech, fuck that. Better internet, who cares? Medical breakthroughs, no, it's Pokemon Go. Combining heartfelt nostalgia with the latest in augmented reality technology, this game allows 2 to 200-year-olds to explore the Poke world via the real world.
I don't think 2-year-olds should be going on dates.
Don't think there's ever been confirmed 200-year-old. Although I did see something about there might have been a 140-year-old that either still is alive or might have. That's all their conversation.
Yeah.
Go out and about and roam this world of ours. You literally cannot play without moving, and Fitbits all over the world have been tracking record steps as a result. While competitive, most users see more upside in collaboration, and this game has been breaking societal barriers and making friends left and right. What's next for Pokemon Go? Well, it's obvious, isn't it? They didn't put the it in. Isn't. Well, it's obvious, isn't. Pokedates. Maybe that's a Freudian slip of the grammar there. Ian, would you ever do Pokedates if you were single?
I mean, I'd consider it, I guess. I think it's a very cute idea, and I don't know. I kind of see it as a thing that's happened naturally.
Have you seen people start making out after they're searching for Pokemon together?
No, but I think it's already a naturally very easy way to meet people, at least in its current popularity.
You bump into someone else on the phone while you're walking. Oh, you must be searching for that Squirtle around here.
I've heard stories about it. I mean, people strike up conversation all the time. I mean, guys, girls. I mean, guys. I mean, I've just seen. I mean, in the walks that Vani and I have taken to go play, I've seen all sorts of people who are, at least to me, obvious strangers walking in opposite directions, crossing paths, stopping, talking. It's a very social game, and I think a lot of this sort of thing, if you were to look for it, you'd probably find stories about this out there happening naturally. So I think that this is kind of a cute idea. I don't know what the success would be, honestly, compared to this just happening naturally, because there already are Pokemon Go meetups. And I would assume that single people are out there playing, and you're going to make friends. And that sort of thing just happens at social functions. So, I don't know. I think it's a neat idea.
What's next? Poke orgies? Oh.
you would be too busy to catch Pokemon.
Want to see my Poliwhirl? Is that a Pokemon?
It is a Pokemon.
I know like 4 different Pokemon.
You are a sad man.
All right, so Ian, at Comic-Con, you were at that Sonic Bash.
Yeah.
Right across from Comic-Con, they have a little Sonic party every year.
Most years. It's called Sonic Boom. It was my second one. Vonnie is a Sonic fan. She's been to 3 of them. And, I mean, I
heard nothing but that it was so glitchy, the event, audio dropouts, and it was...
Oh, no, the event itself live was a lot of fun. There were no problems.
Just people watching it online.
There was, like, no technical problems live. I heard that the stream itself was a fucking mess, but I full of Totino's loaded nachos, like plugs and shit like that. I mean, I have no idea.
I did see the one picture posted on Twitter showing Sonic dancing awkwardly next to the DJ a few feet away.
Oh yeah, I mean, but the thing is like it's stupid, goofy fun. They treat you really nice. There's free food. They give you drink tickets. There's a performance by this really cheese dick band called Crush 40 that has done most of the Sonic music since Sonic Adventure.
Cheese dick, is that a genre?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like butt rock, cheese dick. It's just like this. I mean, it's
something you'd hear in a Dreamcast game.
Yeah, something you'd hear on a Dreamcast game. It's bad, but it's and I'm not like this massive Sonic fan. I like the Genesis games and I like Sonic Adventure 1, but it's a good time. I mean, I'm sitting along the bar having drinks, and there are people in the crowd having fucking religious experiences. I mean, crying as the band's playing and shit like that. I mean, it's insane. But, I mean, free chili dogs, because, that's Sonic's favorite food from the cartoon and the early comics, and sliders, and they give you a bag of really nice swag with, like...
Pepto-Bismol.
With, like, plush animals and comics and
Colostomy pads
and
dogs.
they give you like this really heavy bronze 25th anniversary Sonic coin that's like this huge and like I mean really nice stuff, and like it's a well put together event, like I said, from the live experience. But one of the big things was the first thing they kind of kicked off with was the announcement of Sonic Mania. And people lost their fucking minds. And kind of for good reason. So Sonic Mania is a new Sonic game, and I think most people know about it at this point, but...
Kinda new.
Well, kind of new. Yeah, we'll get to that. I have my criticisms of it, but I'm also fairly excited for it. It is an actual return to 2D Sonic roots with legitimate sprite-based graphics, and like unlike Sonic the Hedgehog 4, which never even got fucking finished, it actually looks like somewhere between a 16 32-bit sprite-based game. What's kind of important about this one is it's Christian Whitehead is behind it, who was behind the updated ports of Sonic CD that was on mobile, and I believe it won Mobile Game of the Year 2 years ago when it was put out. He also did updates, I believe, of Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 that were the ports that were put on console and also mobile using his own retro engine. Basically, this is a guy who knows what the fuck he's doing. And this is a mixture of basically remixes of old zones like Green Hill Zone and completely new levels. It's going to have 3 playable characters, Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails, so it's going to be similar to Sonic 3 in that regards. I didn't wait in line to play the demo. There were far more diehards there than I, so I kind of wanted to it was only going to be available to play for us, until the end of the event. A lot of people wanted to play. I figured, screw it, I'll just give up my spot for someone else to play it. And by all accounts, the physics felt right, the game felt right. Unlike Sonic the Hedgehog 4, none of the controls felt floaty. It felt exactly like a Sonic game should. Besides looking gorgeous, I really want to play this. I'm excited for the new zones. I wish they would stop relying on recycling the old zones so goddamn
But that's
much.
nostalgia. That's like, hey, you remember playing this 25 years ago? Play it for the 6th time.
And there is something, endearing and appealing about seeing the aesthetics of Green Hill Zone, but they've just done it so many times. And what I think is problematic about it this time is, if this was the first time they had leaned on it, it would be one thing, but Sonic the Hedgehog 4, I think, left such a bad taste in people's mouths because, as far as I can recall, there were no new zones. They were literally just rehashes of all the old zones. So I think to the non-diehards, to the non-true believers, they're looking at this and they're going, really?
So this is sort of the Sonic safety school. This is like they know they can't miss with this.
Right.
We're going to have some of the old stuff. It's going to look like the game's 25 years ago, but we're going to have some new ones too. So, I mean, you got to like this. Come on, guys. You got to like this. All 3 playable characters. Come on. They added, one new, the drop dash, which I guess is you jump and you can dash as soon as you
land, which I actually think looks pretty cool, keeps the momentum going. They did show some platforming, which there are a lot of people who seem to be mistaken in that Sonic the Hedgehog is all about speed. Bullshit, it's not. The first Sonic the Hedgehog had a lot of platforming in it, and when Sonic tried to go and be all about speed, I think it failed. You need a good mix. The speed was the payoff to careful platforming. It was that fun release that you got from navigating, the trickier, more trap-filled parts. So I think this looks good, and I think a lot of people, even the more skeptical, are thinking that, yeah, this could, even if a little redundant, this could actually be a really fun Sonic game, and quite possibly the first fun Sonic game since Sonic Generations.
So you have zones from the first 3 Sonic games, and then also Sonic CD will be there. It's going to be on PS4, Xbox One, and PC, coming out spring 2017. There was another Sonic game announced though too.
Yeah, Project Sonic or Sonic 2017. This one is this one's interesting to me because it's Sonic Generations 2. It was a little darker in tone, which was like it was a shorter, more cinematic trailer. It didn't really show any gameplay. But it did show new Sonic, and it talks about how heroes need old friends, and it showed old Sonic, old-style Sonic, the shorter, chubbier, cuter Sonic, jump back in, and that's obviously a throwback to Sonic Generations. And it's funny to me because Sega said, enjoy it while you can, because we're never going to do this again, basically. And then after trying to, do, the Sonic Lost World and the Sonic Generations and, having in Sonic Colors and having all 3 be met with lukewarm to, very negative reviews, Sega's realizing that their only hope is to pander to their audience. The difference is, in this case, pandering to their audience kind of brings out the best in them because they know what works. And while they're falling back on what they know and they're not innovating, I just don't think anyone trusts Sega to innovate anymore. And I think they're totally happy eating their bowl of mashed potatoes or macaroni and cheese, their comfort food. I think that's what people want from Sega now.
Well, at least from their Sonic games. I mean,
yes,
Sonic never branched out like Mario did.
No,
successfully. They're whatever kart games or whatever else.
Well, actually, the kart games got even among like major publications, their kart games got very good reviews.
Do they sell well though, enough to bring them back?
They got a sequel.
All right, they can always go to that well then if they want to try that. But I think whenever they try to do like an adventure game or something, it's just like people are just like no.
I liked Sonic Adventure 1. The thing is like the diehard fans love Sonic Adventure 2, and I have no idea why. Sonic Adventure 2, in my opinion, is one of the shittiest 3D games I've ever played. The Sonic and Shadow levels are fun for the speed element, but the Knuckles and Rouge levels and the Tails and Robotnik levels were absolutely abysmal. I don't know why you take a flying fox and you stick him in a robot that is slow, clunky, and can barely move around. But anyways, I think while unadventurous and lacking in... oh god, my mind is so dull right now. Lacking in... Give me the fucking word.
Panache?
Progress. No, not progress.
Evolution?
Evolution. Sure, evolution.
Evolution is a mystery.
Lacking in evolution, this is probably the best move Sega can be making right now.
Just stay with the tried and true until your dwindling fan base gets sick of what you're doing, and squeeze every. Because let's put it this way: are they really creating new Sonic fans, or just going off of the old ones at this point?
No, actually, I think this will probably. They're definitely pleasing their Sonic fans, but I think Sonic Mania in particular will bring...
It will bridge that gap?
It will bring lapsed Sonic fans back into the fold, at least out of curiosity. It's not going to it might not create new ones.
That's the point, though. But they are on borrowed time with how much they can get out of the Sonic character. It's like Mario's creating new fans every few years with the new games on a flagship console. Sega doesn't have a console to do that anymore, to really promote that character.
Sure.
Well, it's not the same.
That's kind of the point that I'm making too. They will make people happy with these games, but they're not pushing the envelope. They're not going to. It's not adventurous enough.
They're not going to get Game of the Year for any future Sonic game. They're not going. That's not going to happen. They're not going to have their version of Mario Galaxy that shocks the world. It's like, holy shit, this is something different and special. And all right.
So here's something odd. A poll reported that despite concerns over price and motion sickness, VR purchase intent is high.
Intent.
So a poll stated that among gamers who play for at least 5 hours a week, 74% said that they intend to purchase a VR device, while 60% said that they hope to get one as a gift. I actually kind of expected those numbers to be flipped a little bit. In that console players are slightly more likely to purchase a VR device at 75% than those on PC at 73%. If I had to guess why they would be higher on console, it's probably because they know that they can plug it into a console and play it and not worry about hardware or specs or anything like that.
Or that's more geared towards gamers. Obviously, consoles, PC could be less mix of gamers too.
Sure. What's interesting about this is, the general consensus, at least among people I talk to, is that a lot of people are iffy on VR, or they seem to don't care. But when polled anonymously, it seems like there's a bit more deep down excitement about this, at least just to try it out, than people would say publicly. I don't know why there would be this inability to express excitement, just to be excited about something. But continuing on, it seems like RPG games are something that people are interested in playing in VR. Stuff like Skyrim, I'm assuming.
RPGs to me be the last genre. What? No. So I can read the menus like I'm really reading them?
You're not letting me finish. I think they're talking about stuff like Skyrim, okay. Like first-person RPGs and things like that.
That's not really an RPG to me. It's more like an adventure game with RPG elements, but whatever. Go on.
How is that not a role-playing game to you?
It's an adventure game first, but go on.
Okay. And then sports games.
That's not saying Legend of Zelda is an RPG first. It's not. It's an adventure game first. Just because it's RPG elements doesn't mean it's...
You are fucking insane thinking that... You've never played Skyrim.
I've seen enough gameplay footage to know that it's not a straight-out RPG. No.
Okay.
Go on. Argue in the comments. Any things I'm insane for thinking that... Do you agree that games that have multiple genres attached to it?
What?
Games that have multiple genres that are attached to it.
Sure, but it's absolutely a role-playing game.
All right, we're getting off topic.
Okay. Anyways, sports games were also of interest, which that was more surprising to me. Although, because I just think that's... I don't know. I find that interesting. But this is in spite of people who are concerned about motion sickness. I find it interesting that people would want to plunk down that sort of money,
Oops.
even with concerns about motion sickness and the fact that they might not be able to use this sort of expensive equipment at all. I mean, why would they? What would be the impetus there to purchase the equipment that could very well be useless to them?
Which is why I think this poll is bullshit.
Well,
Because-
also, it's only 300 people.
Well, that's enough a sample size to get an idea, but obviously it's not like 1,000, but 300 should be a pretty good one, depending on where the cross demographics information. I'd like to see that, but yeah, I think this is like sort of a, oh yeah, pie in the sky, I'll go out and buy one. But if these same people see reviews coming out saying, oh, I got motion sickness or this and that, they're gonna be like, oh, I don't think so, because motion sickness is not good on these. There's always tales of people throwing up from demos of games. I think it was like Resident Evil 7. It was just off for some people just a little bit, and people were like throwing up with the VR demo. So like it's got to be 1-to-1 exactly for VR not to make you sick.
Yeah.
Your mind doesn't know how to deal with it otherwise. I remember people even just watching Wolfenstein 3D on a computer in the early 90s and getting sick. Watching a first-person
Yeah,
shooter.
first-person stuff still makes Vonnie sick. I mean, she tries to play Overwatch because she really wants to, but she can't handle it for very long. I mean, it just makes her ill. I mean, she can barely use the R stick without just like getting completely thrown off.
So I think that's the big test. Let's see what happens after the first holiday, season, and how many people get this and figure out that, okay, this is going to be viable. I'm not going to get sick of this on my face. What does it say? 42% concerned about motion sickness. 41% said they're worried about spreading germs by sharing a VR device. I would never share my VR device. That sounds disgusting. All the sweat and snot that's going to get in there and spit and everything else.
Yeah.
That sounds fucking awful.
They had
They better come with antibacterial wipes.
They had the Resident Evil VR experience at Comic-Con, and I would
not go near that.
I'm not a germaphobe in any way, shape, or form, but even that just seemed a little too gross for me.
Yeah, it's going to be a combination of motion sickness. Can I wear this for more than a half hour before I get into that zone where I take it off and I'm like dizzy for like 10 minutes? There's a lot of factors of VR that I think are going to... I don't think it's ever going to be a huge success. I think it'll either be a moderate success or a moderate failure. I don't think it's ever going to be something that's always going to take off and 95% of gamers are going to use. I still maintain I don't think even half of gamers are ever going to do it. But I think you have to wait a year or two to see how it fleshes out and see how much it latches on. Plus that price point, unless there can be a really cheap one for people. If it's like buying another console, I still think most people are going to shy away from that. Not everyone has $1,000 to burn on a new console and VR. It just doesn't make any sense to do that. But it's interesting. I was watching TV and I saw like a commercial for a VR device. I basically just a headset promoting that. You plug your phone in and you get all these apps and everything. It was basically like you can buy them online. But seeing them get into the mass consumer market by having a TV commercial where you can order on your on a telephone and you buy get a second one for only $5 more, and it's like, end of the day, it's just a piece of plastic holding your phone with some lenses inside.
Oh, what those are is it's Google Cardboard. It's sturdier. It's a plastic Google Cardboard.
This is a mass-produced one.
Yeah,
and it had lenses on it, I guess, to help accentuate it. Or whatever.
Well, Google Cardboard has lenses on it too.
So I mean, do you have any interest in getting this?
I have interest in VR, but I would never, ever consider buying VR without giving it a full test run and seeing what the motion sickness, if I would experience motion sickness. Like, I would never buy this blindly, I think, kind of like this study is insinuating, without absolutely knowing that I could do it without, barfing everywhere.
All right, we were half right. The genre of Skyrim, according to Wikipedia, is action role-playing. That's the genre. So, all right. Or it's an action RPG. Adventure action. There you go. What's next? All right.
New NX rumors that have been heavily sourced.
Well, heavily, even though we're not like coming out and saying the exact guy, right? We're just like, okay, we have our sources from before that have come through on it, so we think this is going to be true too. But it sounds like this is picking up steam as a reliable. So the NX has been rumored and now almost confirmed that it's going to be the reverse of the Wii U, that it's going to be a handheld device that you can dock and play to your TV, versus the opposite where it comes from your TV to a handheld unit or tablet that you hold, which is interesting. But it's a good direction because the Wii U has done awfully. 3DS sales, 3DS has been out for a long time now, so those sales are dwindling. So this takes care of both of that.
Right.
Having a handheld all-in-one unit, it's like, okay, you want a new 3DS, you want a new Nintendo console, you got to get this. And I think everyone will just say, oh, this is the next step. It's a hybrid, it's all-in-one. Don't need two versions of fucking game anymore, like Smash Brothers. It's just gonna be one, and we're good to go. Get the same benefits of a handheld, but it's be more powerful, and plus you can play it as a console. Yeah, everyone wins, but people are getting a little bit scared, I think, by how this is gonna look. One of these images came out, a drawn sort of black and white image of having the handheld, which from the outlet looks like a Wii U tablet. Who knows about the actual side? We have no idea. It's got two thumbsticks. It has the four diagonal regular push buttons. It has the crosshair on the left. But then there's a second image where both sides of the controller are detached as separate controllers. So you have one detached with the thumb joystick with the four buttons, and on the one on the left is a crosshair with the thumbs. So it's almost like, oh, this is now a different experience where maybe we can have two different players playing on the tablet separately. That's a little different, right?
This simply harkens back to the Wii control scheme, where you had a nunchuck in one hand and a Wii remote in another.
But this is on a handheld, though. If you're gonna treat this as a handheld with separate controller functions, that's entirely different.
No, what they're saying is you have two controllers that are attached, and this is your handheld. When you're using it as a console, it's hooked up to the TV, and these become your controllers.
Okay, I'm looking at this as a potential to have two players playing something separately on the same sort of device or computer. Kind of like having how some people could use the Wii U tablet on a TV versus using a standard controller for two different games. But this is on the handheld, though. That's how I'm looking at it. But maybe it could be both. Maybe it could be both functions. Who knows?
What I read was that it's a handheld that is a handheld, and then when you dock it for your TV, you basically take the controllers off the side, and these become your controllers, essentially acting as old-style Wii nunchuck and Wii remote controllers, which actually doesn't particularly thrill me. That's the one part that doesn't.
That seems more like a gimmick to me than anything else.
Well, I mean, I don't know what else you would do except for just include it. Well, you could just include a separate controller, obviously.
Sure.
But Nintendo's always known for trying to do cost-cutting measures, and that could be one way of doing it. I think this is a fantastic idea for Nintendo, and here there's a couple of reasons why. One is that it completely eliminates the need for Nintendo to do two systems. Nintendo's always done best in their portable market. And while mobile phones have kind of filled that truly on the go, I need to kill some time on the bus market, there's always that need for kind of a personal gaming experience, and I'm sick and laying in bed gaming experience. I'm on an airplane sort of thing. I'm at a convention. I'm laying in bed. There's definitely a market for it. While the 3DS sold very well during its lifespan, the sales are slowing, but the 3DS did very well. I think something close to 50 million units. And I don't think there's any reason to think that another Nintendo handheld wouldn't do well. This gives you the benefit of another Nintendo home console without Nintendo having to bank entirely on a home console and hope that they don't lose a ton of money on it. I think the biggest thing here is that you only have one library of games to worry about, and I think that's fantastic both for the consumer and for Nintendo themselves.
Well, also for developers, because a lot of developers went nowhere near the Wii U, but the 3DS, yeah. It's actually selling and people are actually buying for that. So for them, even if, we'll get into the tech on this, but even if this is not going to be as powerful as the PS4, it obviously won't be as powerful as the Neo or the Project Scorpio. But even still, if they think they can sell games, they're going to develop for it. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. So this eliminates the need for, a Mario Kart 7 and then a Mario Kart 8. This eliminates the need for Hyrule Warriors and then Hyrule Warriors Legends. And to touch on what you said, this is rumored to be using the NVIDIA Tegra chip, which is used in the NVIDIA Shield, which, if you've ever seen what the NVIDIA Shield can output, it's not unimpressive for a handheld, which is what the NVIDIA Shield is. It's very impressive, and I think Nintendo has thrown in the towel, thankfully, on trying to keep up or compete with Sony and Microsoft on the consoles. And really, why would they?
Well,
why do we need a third box that does the same exact fucking thing?
They haven't tried that since the GameCube, though. So they haven't tried that.
Well, no, the GameCube did. The GameCube arguably has better or exactly.
They haven't tried it since the GameCube.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Wii, they weren't going after it at all. They went in their own direction.
No,
Obviously, the Wii U.
I guess what I'm saying is everyone wanted them to, and they kind of imply that they might have tried to with this next system, but they're not, and they don't need to. And my whole point is, why do people want them to? Why do we need another samey box?
I just want third-party support. That's probably what they want. They don't want to have to buy two different consoles. But Nintendo's now saying you have to buy two different consoles. This will be basically a handheld that's a super-powered handheld, but they're not even going to try. Doesn't mean that you're not going to have third-party support. It's just in what form is it going to come in. I guess it depends on the specs. Because even if this is not, and who the fuck knows? Obviously, for a new console, they might be developing a new chip for this. This isn't locked down yet.
No, obviously.
It'll be a few more months before this is locked down, probably.
From what I heard, they're announcing it in September.
Yeah,
so a month.
So a month, 2 months, they'll lock it down. There's probably dev kits already out, but those change to developers. That's not locked down. So I think it comes down to the fact that will this be powerful enough so that third-party developers can think they can develop for this while simultaneously developing for the two main consoles, while getting some version on Nintendo's console. Won't be totally nerfed for the next, 3 years or so, or 4 years. Like, is there enough power? I think there should be, especially since, well, there has been third parties coming out saying they're excited about this. Then again, they said they're excited about the Wii U. EA said they're excited and they didn't support it. But who knows? But Take-Two's CEO said it could be very exciting. There's been comments from Square Enix, Level 5, Spike Chunsoft, Koei Tecmo, Bandai, Ubisoft, who supports Nintendo stuff, Activision, EA. So, but who
Level
knows?
5 has always supported Nintendo. I mean,
but the big ones though, like Activision, EA, are they going to stick around for it? That's the thing. That's the key.
I don't know, but like I said, if viewed more as a handheld than a console, I think it's highly likely that yes, you will get some third-party support. I think we're going to have to agree to disagree here. I don't think Nintendo needs to try to be the same thing as Microsoft or Sony.
Well, they're not. But will it be powerful enough that ports can come over to the system? I think that's just the bottom line. Will Rockstar think that I can put the Grand Theft Auto 6 on here or whatever in 3-4 years?
No, I don't think they will.
Remains to be seen, because they're going to still have to support the Xbox One regular version and still have to support the regular PS4.
That's true.
And if the NX is slightly less powerful or could be as powerful, why not put it on there too? Especially since people are saying that the port them over is going to be very, very simple. That's what the word was.
That's fair enough.
So we'll have to see. I think that's the key. I think Nintendo realized that if we can even get some of those games, they don't get all of them. If we get, all you gotta do is get the new sports titles. Get the newest sports titles every year. Get the NBA 2K games. Get the Madden games on there. That'll get some people. That will have people say, okay, I don't have to buy the PS4 then for that. I can just get it on the NX, and it'll be portable on top of that. We'll have to see. We'll have to see the final specs. That's just the bottom line. We do know that it's going to be more powerful than the Wii U. Obviously, how much more powerful? I don't know. I am disappointed though that if they go to whatever version of cartridge is going to be, whatever 3DS cartridge or whatever to hold these games, that means no backwards compatibility. That to me is sort of a sucker punch just to people that bought the Wii U in the past year or two, though. That to me is a shame, and it also means to me that they don't give a shit about Wii U software sales going forward. That come next year, why push the Wii U software then at that point, since you're not selling consoles anymore, basically. You're not going to be selling anything.
I think that's a sacrifice they have to make.
But they're cutting it off like that. Like, it's not even like dwindling. It's going to be like, okay, it's not backwards compatible, so fuck your old library, basically. Why even focus on that? Because how many people are going to set up two Nintendo consoles in the same TV? Some people will, not a lot of people.
The same people who have a PS3 set up in a PS4.
So in the wake of the NES Classic Edition, we had a lot of people on Twitter say, whoa, this is Sega responding to it with their own version, which would be the Sonic 25th anniversary plug and play.
It is Sega responding, but in probably the weakest way they possibly can, by taking a product that's been out for, 2 years now? I think 2 years now. And basically slapping it into a different box, putting the 25th anniversary logo on it, adding one more Sonic game to it, which I think is 3D Blast, one that no one cares about, and in the process removing... adding a couple other games to it, and then removing such games as like the entire Streets of Rage series, which makes absolutely no sense, since those are well-loved games.
So let's go over, I guess, is there a list then confirmed? Because this is the at-games list I have in front of me about what's out and in. Okay. Oh yeah, they're getting rid of basically all the games you'd want to play from the classic Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
They're getting rid of Flicky. Echo, they're getting rid of, yes, like Ian said, the Streets of Rage trilogy. Virtua Fighter 2 is gone. But in your place, you're getting some decent stuff in its place. You're getting Eternal Champions. You're getting...
Flicky.
Oh, Flicky's in. He's going to be in.
It's out, but it's also in.
You're going to get Phantasy Star 2 and 3. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
Sonic 3D Blast, Sword of Vermilion. Yawning Triceratops. Not sure what that game is.
So these at games Sega consoles, if you didn't know, apparently have about 40 actual Genesis games, and then about 40, I don't know if they're clones or homebrews or what, but they have 40 games that were actually not on the Sega Genesis to begin with at all. So this is an attempt to compete with it, obviously, a rebranding and a horrible attempt at saying, us two guys, we can do this, and I believe it'll be at a cheaper price point. I believe that these were sold at $40. The one nice thing about these consoles is they have a cartridge slot that does run actual Genesis cartridges. Unfortunately, the compatibility on these is pretty poor. If I remember correctly, it has roughly the compatibility of the Sega Genesis 3, which is not particularly good at all, and it uses infrared controllers, which are abysmal. If you ever used those wireless controllers from the 90s, well, they're running on the same technology, and they're just as reliable.
So there's no ports for their own Genesis controls?
I believe there are, but it's not what it comes packed with stock.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those are going to be garbage for the most part. So there's 80 games, but only 40 are games people are actually going to want to play for the most part. So just running through, you got Alex Kidd and Shaded Castle, Alien Storm, let's see. Shotgun, The Forever Man, that's an interesting choice. Columns, E-SWAT, Flicky, Golden Axe 1, 2, and 3, Phantasy Star 2 and 3, Shadow Dancer, Shinobi 3, Sonic and Knuckles, the first two Sonic 3D Blast, Vector Man 1 and 2, 3 Mortal Kombat games, kind of surprising to get all 3 on there. And then some of the games that are just thrown on there because these are the games that you'd find on your default Chinese handheld you buy overseas. You have stuff like Adventure in the Park and Memory.
Dominant Amber.
Air Hockey. Spider. Naval Power. Not Battleship probably, but Naval Power. Brain Switch.
Plumbing Contest.
Brain Switch and its heralded sequel, Mega Brain Switch. Hide and seek. So these are games that they really shouldn't pump it up with 80. When people are saying, "Oh, there's going to be 80 games on this," they're not Genesis games though.
I still want to know what Yawning Triceratops is.
I think we have to buy this just to see what Yawning Triceratops is.
Next time one comes into the store, because they do come into the store all the time in boxes full of trade-ins, I'm like, I can't give you anything for this, and they're like, just take it anyways.
I like the name of some of these games, like let's see, Whack-A-Wolf. So that's a complex whack-a-mole game, except maybe the wolf comes after you.
Yeah.
Snake, Mr. Balls, and Fight or Lose.
Well, hold on, how do we miss this one? Meatloaf Rotation.
Is it cooking, or are you actually taking the singer Meatloaf and putting him on a spit and turning him?
I'm guessing someone tried to make a Tetris clone and couldn't get the graphics right.
So many questions, so little answers about this console. But yeah, this will sell fine, but it's not Sega's response. It's repackaging their old stuff, or At Games is repackaging at least. So Nintendo has announced a new book called Playing with Power, Nintendo NES Classics. And that company Prima, they do the strategy guides.
Yes.
They're still around. I guess they must still sell them because they're one of the few strategy guide makers around.
The few times I go into GameStop, they're always pushing them with new releases.
Mm-hmm. So, this is going to come out about the same time as the NES Classic Edition. I think roughly the same time. November 18th. You can pre-order on Amazon. Playing with Power Nintendo NES Classics. The book looks like a Nintendo cartridge, which is pretty cool. And it's going to come with a slipcase, an embossed slipcase, like it's a game, like a giant game, which is a pretty cool idea. It's going to be over 300 pages. It's going to cover a retrospective of 17 NES classics, which, if you count the games on the NES Classic Edition, there's about 17 first-party titles. So you'd think that those are going to be the same ones to sort of tie in with the NES Classic Edition. Makes sense. Interviews and commentary from Nintendo visionaries who pioneered the era of gaming. See, that's what's cool to me. Because anyone can come out with an NES book, but are you actually going to get like Miyamoto to sit down and do an interview and have it all nice, or anyone else at Nintendo? Hell, some of these people probably either no one's interviewing, or who knows who worked on some of these games like 30 years ago. Maybe some artists get their work in there. And there's going to be advertising and excerpts from Nintendo Power magazine back issues. That to me is super cool. Just because from time to time people ask me, "Hey Pat, why doesn't someone come out with a book of like stuff from old Nintendo Powers?" Well, copyright. That's why you can't really do it. You can't just reprint old Nintendo Power magazines.
Right.
You
can't just lift it directly, as we talked. Well, actually, we didn't. But as certain things have been canceled, it's not transformative enough.
And so, showcase of vintage advertising and priceless excerpts from Nintendo Power magazine back issues, and then hand-drawn maps.
Yeah, see, that's something
character
that
and game
really...
environment art and much more. So if you have someone that gets The Legend of Zelda, like the original, like drawn like sprites, that would be fucking priceless to see that in a book.
It's all the supplemental material that really entices me. And I normally don't buy big coffee table books, but this is actually something that I might buy.
So it's Prima Games. It's going to come out 320 pages, November 18th. So it's very interesting. And now you kind of know why. We didn't speak about this before, about the NES Visual Compendium, which got temporarily shut down by Nintendo on Kickstarter for a couple of weeks and then brought back. They actually allowed it to finish.
Oh, really?
It got funded, I want to say, probably at least $250,000 it got funded.
I had no idea they allowed
So
it to
basically,
finish.
didn't want to speak at the time just because, well, I got a book, didn't feel like, wasn't wishing ill will on the book, just that there were differences between that book and mine. But Nintendo came out against that book originally. Now you kind of know why. Because they have their own book coming out, which is going to do something probably similar in a lot of respects, at least for the first party titles. So, because the NES Visual Compendium is being put out, that's covering I think roughly 100 games, not just Nintendo first party, but obviously you have to include Nintendo first party games if you're doing a book about the NES, because that's a chunk of the most famous games. So that book was heavily visual and with a little bit of text, and Nintendo basically said, it's not enough fair use for us. Plus, in advertising, they were using the seal of quality,
right?
Which really turned Nintendo off. And so you can understand Nintendo didn't want to be confused in the marketplace with their own book coming out. And if you look at Nintendo's book, on the cover, they have a seal of quality on theirs. So they worked it out, though. Thankfully, Nintendo worked it out with the people doing the NES Visual Compendium. And so people will be able to get all these books. So I don't think Nintendo was being too much of an asshole. They want to make sure that, they don't want confusion in the marketplace. I mean, that's one of the things with copyright and trademark, is that you don't want someone to get away with selling a product that they think is the official one. And it's like, that's not good. See, this can't be confused with Nintendo's book or the Visual Compendium, because this is covering all 800 games. And this is a book Nintendo would never ever put out. Because why would Nintendo put out a book reviewing, I don't know, Lethal Weapon on the NES? I don't think they'd ever do that.
A certain book can never be confused with a normal book.
Especially due to the weight on it. So this is exciting. I'll probably get this book. It's for pre-sale right now. Looks like $27. Oh wow! But the list price is $45. So, is there anything you want to see in particular? Any old art from, like, I don't know, like Kid Icarus seeing originally drawn maps?
Yeah, I want to see that.
Items?
I want to see Zelda 2 maps more than anything.
Oh, that could be on here.
Yeah,
I wonder if they're gonna.
I really want to see.
I wonder if they're gonna just stick with art from the 17 games that are probably featured on the NES Classic Edition here, or kind of veer off. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But basically this is a tie-in product. They're calling it a veritable love letter to Nintendo fans.
God, I hate that term, love letter. It's used so often.
I just think it's funny that there was nothing. All of a sudden, we want to cover the NES with two products. It just seems weird to me.
It is.
So, speaking of the NES Classic Edition, a user on YouTube named Daft Mike put out a video. He's been playing it for a while. It's just coincidental. He did his own mini NES Classic console, which is basically, looks from the outside, it's a mini NES.
Yeah,
It's
3D printed.
3D printed console, and inside you have the good old Raspberry Pi, and it's running RetroPie, which is, I guess, the front end that an emulator is installed to play all your games. We've seen.
We
this
used
before.
it before
We've seen
during a
them,
convention.
Yeah. So it's cute because the timing was the same timing, so we figured, I'm going to put out the early version of it. So the difference between this and obviously an NES Classic Edition, where it only has 30 games built in, this has all the games that are preloaded onto this. This is what's kind of unique and cool and kitschy about this, but will never ever happen. Nintendo would never do this. So, and we'll get into why. He also did 3D printing of mini NES cartridges, which are cute. They have the labels on them and everything else. So using an NFC, I guess, scanner reader, it puts the phone to the cartridge, puts the cartridge into the console, and the console plays that game you put in. So basically, it's an instruction on the cartridge telling the RetroPie what game to play, what game to launch.
Yep.
And he did it for not just NES games. I believe I saw in the video he did one for Pokemon Red.
Basically, any ROM, he could put any ROM. Technically, if he wanted to put a TurboGrafx game on that Pokemon Red cartridge, it would load it up. But yeah, it's adorable. It has a little door. The power button and the reset button work as they should. And he had a stack: Mario 1, Mario 2, Mario 3, Zelda. And you put the cartridge in. It even pushes down, which I thought was adorable.
That's
with
cute.
the proper spring loading. It touches it to the NFC portion of the NFC reader. You hit power, and it loads up just as it should. And he even made these adorable little mini NES controllers.
Which was probably the most questionable part about it, because you want to keep it all mini, but you can't really play platforms well on a little mini controller.
No.
Or Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. It might be tough to do that. But people are like, oh, this is what Nintendo should have done. Okay, let's pump the brakes here a bit. You do really want Nintendo to re-release old software on physical media again? Do you really want to go that far? Let's think about that. Think about who actually wants that. Collectors want that. And that's it. That's where it sort of begins and ends there. Because you're going to pay a huge premium, not just for Nintendo to then produce the cartridges. They're not 3D printed, they'll be mass produced. They'll be probably a little bit cheaper. They have to get the licensing first, if it's not a first party game. They got to get the licensing to do the artwork for the cartridge. They have to get all that. Then they have to get their NES Mini and put all the technology in there in order to load the cartridge and play it. That's going to add cost. They have to, or in this case, if you have all the software loaded on here already and all the games, that means they have to pre-license all the games that are going to be included for this to basically activate the game. So they couldn't do that. Or maybe they could, which basically means you'd be paying not $60 for your little mini NES. You'd probably be paying $300 to get all these games preloaded on it, and then to have cartridges activate them. Because you're paying for licensing of hundreds of games.
Contrary-wise, I think they could. I don't know if they would, but all you have to do is look at the amiibo craze. I think people would pay. I mean, let's look at it this way. If they're charging $5 a ROM for Virtual Console and people are doing it, and they're charging $13 for an amiibo, I think someone would pay $13. And as far as I can tell, and maybe I'm wrong, but you should be able to do this the reverse way of the way he did it. You should be able to put the ROM on the actual cartridge and have the NFC reader read the ROM, load it into the system, and play it.
Do you really think these would be only $13 in store if Nintendo came out with cartridges with games on them?
I think they could do it for $15.
What did the Game Boy Advance re-releases cost?
The Game Boy Advance re-releases are $7.99.
No, when you actually bought the cartridges back in the day.
Oh, they were $39.99. But I'm just saying, Nintendo could technically do it, and they could do it without the price going to the moon. I'm saying that back then they didn't have a virtual console to do it on.
But it was the same premise, though. It was software that pre-existed 15 years before Metroid, Donkey Kong, and they're just slapping it on a cartridge.
On a physical cartridge that costed more. before the Virtual Console existed and before Nintendo kind of embraced this ROM thing, NFC is a lot cheaper. Now, I'm not saying that they should do it or they would do it. I'm just saying I don't think it would necessarily be as expensive as you're thinking it would be.
I think it would be, because they have to go back and license these games for this. I don't think it's as simple as, okay, we already have this license, we can automatically put it on a cartridge. They got to probably renegotiate all that too.
Oh, I'm not arguing with you about third-party games. I'm just saying if they wanted to do it with first-person, first-party games,
they can do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, I'm saying first-party games, it would be a cute idea.
Sure.
But yes, obviously, if we're just looking at the NES Classic and we're looking at third-party games, yeah, obviously this is. I'm not saying yes, it's out of the realm of possibility. I just don't think if they wanted to do it with, say, first-party games, it would be as expensive as you're thinking.
I would be looking at a $20 price point. I think that's what Nintendo would probably shoot for and probably get it.
Seeing as how people are paying $13 for amiibos that have yet to really do much of goddamn anything, I think there are people out there who would pay $20 for a cute little Mario game. Cartridge.
Sure.
Yeah.
And they put a little box in it, maybe a mini instruction book. I don't know.
Okay, that would be fucking adorable. I'd pay $20
thank you.
for that.
Say you're the idiot who would pay $20.
I would do that.
And that's why it's not a good idea, because if you had to get all those 30 NES games on the Classic Edition in cartridge form on it, you're paying hundreds of dollars for it.
Okay, fair enough.
And most people wouldn't do that. But again, yeah, for Tecmo Bowl, they have to probably go back and renegotiate that. Then it's not just, okay, we're giving you the license for it. Now, maybe we want a cut of that.
Right.
For every cartridge sold. Nintendo's like, okay, then we got to mark the price up. Obviously, then you go to a retailer, and the retailer has to have a markup, the same as any other product. And an amiibo, I actually don't know how those amiibos are that cheap. Because they're making millions of them.
Right.
They have a great deal. Who knows? But do I like this idea? Yeah, I just think this wouldn't ever sell, I think, to the mainstream like that. But that little mini controller is adorable. It actually works though. But it's funny.
That's the biggest flaw.
It's funny because it's as big as his thumb, the whole controller. So it's like he's trying to play Rad Racer on it.
Oh yeah,
he's just like,
and he appeared to be doing fairly well at Rad Racer at that.
So, then he throws the Pokemon Red in there, which actually looks pretty cute on a cartridge.
Mm-hmm.
It pops down. Looks like you don't have to turn the power on and off. The power's just on. You just put the cartridge in and.
No, he actually hits power.
Oh, he re-hits it. Okay, the red light doesn't go off.
But he hits power, and then if you just tap reset, it resets the game. If you hold it down, it powers off the system, or if you hold it down, it powers it on.
He goes to his phone. He puts in the record to add to tell it to play GBA. Okay, it's interesting. Pie in the sky. A Raspberry Pi in the sky. All right.
Spit water.
So I'm a big... esports TV watcher now.
You're sort of a big proponent of the ones that are watchable.
After watching the awful Heroes of the Dorm, then watching Evo, Street Fighter V, and I checked out the E-League CSGO finals on TBS.
So you actually found this enjoyable?
I did find it enjoyable, Ian. I'll tell you about it. So the final was Virtues Pro, and they defeated Fnatic with an F. 5-on-5 CSGO, Counter-Strike, Global Offensive. It's not just for gambling. You actually play a game. And it's basically, I guess, the terrorists versus counter-terrorists, and you have to plant the bomb. That's the objective. That's how these teams go. So it's not just deathmatch. If you do kill all 5, you'll win. But if you plant the bomb, and you defend it or whatever, then you're fine. Anyway, so it was interesting because the commentating was very spot on about strategies, teams going to A points versus B points, because you can usually go to 2 different points to try to defend or attack on these maps. It was interesting to note they were like in between rounds, from my very limited counter strike experience, about purchasing weapons in between rounds and how that plays into it, making sure you don't drop an item for other team to pick up because it could be valuable to give to your teammate. Make sure you have enough money, maybe conserve it for one round to make sure the next round you have enough money to buy more powerful weapons, automatic weapons, or sniper rifle. There's a lot of strategy that goes into that portion that they did a good job explaining. But then also explaining, just the general strategies of waiting behind or calling out, where enemies were or where you're going to be. Obviously, you don't know what they're actually saying. The players, you don't hear that. The only thing you're watching what's called the Observer, Observer stream, where it'll go back and forth between different players, their first-person perspective, and then every once in a while you'll see an overhead view of the map and all the players moving. But what's cool about the Observer stream or Observer view is that you can see where all the characters are. You can see like their silhouettes through walls and everything, so you know where the other players are. So you're not totally blind if you're watching from one person's first-person perspective, because if they're looking in a direction, you can kind of see where the other players are, teammates and not. That's the way to get around it. Otherwise, you need a split screen of like 10 different players, and that'd be impossible. That's also the limitation, though, is that when there's 10 players alive, or even 7 or 8, you kind of don't know what's going on. You're just following the action of one player for, say, 10, 12 seconds at a time. Then someone will switch the camera to go to another player, and obviously, if you're killed off, it'll go to another player. So there are limitations to that, but the commentating I thought was very spot on. TBS did a great job. Talking about the experiences of these teams in the past, because it's an entire league. They follow a whole season of these teams playing against each other. It's not just one event like Evo, where that's it, go for it. So I guess they have a chance to hone their skills in terms of presenting this and commentating on it, and then knowing what the teams do or not. And plus, these are teams that have been around forever. I believe that the team that won Virtus Pro has been around for a long time, and I think one of the players has been around for maybe like over 10 years or so. It's on the team, I believe. So it was interesting.
So as someone who has always said you never liked Counter-Strike, is this just kind of the example of, like, you don't have to like playing football to watch it?
Well, at the end of the day, it's a first-person shooter.
Right.
I mean, is Counter-Strike Go that much different than regular Counter-Strike?
From what I understand, no, but I've never really played either of them.
Okay. Well, I didn't hate Counter-Strike when I played it for whatever that was, that month period way back then. It just didn't. I didn't like it as much as playing, I guess, the quote-unquote more realistic games.
Which was what you liked, Rainbow Six?
Like Rainbow Six, Rogue Spear, stuff like that, where it's like, if you're going to go full realism, not be able to jump still 10, 12 feet in the air. It was a weird sort of middle ground of realism that Counter-Strike tries to skate on that edge, and I just never liked it personally.
Was Rogue Spear that Blake Stone game?
Blake Stone, where you shoot off the guy and his leg falls off. He goes, Manic! No, Spear of Destiny was a sequel to Wolfenstein.
Yeah, Blake Stone and the Spear of Destiny.
Blake Stone was the guy in space, I thought.
Yeah, they did 2 of them.
Blake Stone was the guy in space.
I was just making a joke about
DJ Blackwich still.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Spear of Destiny was a sequel, I thought.
Maybe. They're both awful.
You remember he's on the cover with shirtless, like...
Yeah, hiding me. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Yes. Anyway, we got thrown off here. So the ratings came in, and it actually did pretty well. Not for the finals. This is, I think, before the finals. The previous one did 271,000 viewers across live and time-shifted viewing, which is actually not bad for esports. That was compared to the Evo Championships that did 201,000 earlier in the month. So that's a good chunk above. So I guess there's something to be said about. Again, I don't think this will ever catch on totally, but if it's going to happen, it's going to be fighting games or first-person shooters. I still think it's going to be that. And the Madden NFL Championship, I never actually saw that advertised, but that was on ESPN2 in June. I didn't even see that or hear about that, surprisingly. You think ESPN2 would probably push that maybe next year. So any thoughts, Ian? Would you ever want to sit down and watch one, or would you rather just watch the Twitch stream, which most people would probably want to watch?
No, I don't think I would watch I would watch a first-person shooter out of curiosity. I just don't think it would hold my interest necessarily. Maybe one that I was actively involved in, like if they found a good way to allow people to spectate something like Overwatch. The sort of gameplay like CSGO doesn't really interest me.
I think Overwatch is coming up on E-League. I believe I saw that.
Oh, then I would probably watch that.
We're going to set something up for that, so there you go. You can watch it on TBS on that old-fashioned big boob tube. Real quick I feel like we have to cover Star Trek Beyond.
I'm not doing it.
Star Trek Beyond had one of the worst teaser trailers in history.
Yeah, it was awful.
That we spoke about, what was that, like last December, which was motorcycles and Beastie Boys Sabotage, which is a great song but did not fit, which shows up in the movie actually, but it actually makes sense.
Oh, okay.
I'll do mild spoilers here. So Star Trek Beyond got good reviews. This is the 50th anniversary of Star Trek. Co-written by Simon Pegg, who plays Scotty in these movies, does a great job. This to me was the... Have you seen the other movies?
No, I've seen none of them, and I don't care what you spoil personally for me.
This was to me the best out of these 3 new ones. The first 2 were done by J.J. Abrams, and second one was really shaky, Into Darkness, because it was a remake of Wrath of Khan with the Khan character. Spoilers, the movie's been out for like 3 years. With the same plot beats, though. So to me, it was lazy. You had the Khan yelling, but now it was done by Spock and not Kirk. Kirk dies instead of Spock, but they bring him back. It was like so just lazy that you had to fall back on the most famous Star Trek film, arguably the best one, and then use the same plot points for it. And it's also the second Star Trek new film.
Right.
It's just left a bad taste in my mouth. And honestly, I remember nothing about it. I honestly don't. So what was better about Star Trek Beyond is that the plot was straightforward. It's not spoilers. In the first 20 minutes, their ship gets destroyed, and they have to find their way off of this planet.
It's in all the trailers. That was in all the trailers. Yeah.
So, it's more character driven. You have a lot of good moments. Finally, Carl Urban gets to shine as Bones. A lot of the best moments in the film are him and his interaction with Spock, which was a throwback to how the interaction between those two characters, how they hated each other. At least Bones hated Spock in the original movies. So that was all well done. Kirk's character was his sort of like, oh, I'm just like this arrogant young kid, was finally downplayed, where the fact that, hey, Kirk was actually a pretty good leader and knew what he was doing.
Nice.
And I think in the first two movies, especially the first one, because he was just starting out as a snot-nosed kid, but even the second one, it's sort of like he was almost like too much seat of my pants, like no one would ever give you the captain's chair on a ship, acting like that. Like it was just like, no, you're too unpredictable and too. So in this one, he acted more grounded. There was still action. You can't get away with these movies. These are modern movies. You're going to have action in a Star Trek movie. We know that. But there were a lot of smaller character moments and dialogue in between the vroom vroom stuff, which I'll get into that in a second. Which that was not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Uh-huh.
It actually kind of made sense in the context.
Okay.
Minor spoilers about that. They find that dirt bike motorcycle on another ship. So it was not from a replicator. It was on a much, much older ship that happened to be abandoned that they find it on. Still kind of dumb, but it's not as dumb as having it on the Enterprise or being a replicator. Okay, that's the worst part of the film. But still, that was not as bad as I thought. The only bad part about that sequence was the CG moment leading up to it, or like it goes from like behind perspective, third person of Kirk on the bike with that white alien female, who her character was better than I thought from the trailers. Her character wasn't simply a Gamora ripoff. There was a little bit of depth to it. That was the only bad CG of the movie, where it was like riding behind it and it looked so bad, like bumping on the rocks. So. I'd say the worst part of the film was not the villain Krall, played by Idris Elba. He did the best with what he had, but the character was so underdeveloped in the motivations that it was one of those things where it was like, you either go it and do it not at all with motivations, just have him be just sort of a guy out for blood and wants to destroy everything.
Right.
Or you have to explain it more up front. Because with this, they explain it like 80% into the movie. By that point, it's like it's too late to get into evil character motivations. You have to do that way earlier. They hit it. I think they wanted like some sort of shock value, which I don't think they didn't earn the shock value. It was like very mild. It's like, okay, that's a cool little twist, but it still didn't explain enough. Without giving away, it didn't explain enough for the motivation besides just that, or how, let's just say, how Krall gets all his minions to fight for him, like his little army. Like, it didn't really explain enough of that. It sort of just it was almost like they cut out like 10 minutes of the film just dealing with the villain. Other than that, though, I thought it was great. It's unfortunate that the second weekend it's dropped off the earth, like 60% drop off of the box office, which is not a good sign. They announced a fourth movie, and they should be able to do a fourth movie just because, I mean, they'll make the money up on DVD and merchandise and Blu-ray, that they should. It's just that it's a shame, though, that I think it was more of a case of this isn't really, to me, a traditional summer movie. It's almost like this could have done better either earlier, like in March, or like November, December, where it had more room to breathe. Not like, you have Jason Bourne coming out the week later, which is going to destroy it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this isn't, to me, you don't think of Star Trek as a summer movie, usually, even though these other ones have come out in the summer.
I just feel like, I mean, you don't really need to worry about it. Star Trek movies are going to be made perpetually.
Unless they bomb. Which is which is why they weren't made for 7 years.
Sure.
With Star Trek Nemesis, which wasn't as awful as I thought when I rewatched it. The last Next Generation movie.
Yeah.
It wasn't as awful. Still wasn't good. Wasn't as awful. I'm more excited about the new Star Trek series coming out in I think January is gonna be the first episode already. I'm really excited about that.
Oh, that's coming up.
So Ian, you're not going to see this anytime soon, but if these are still worth seeing. These new ones, they're interesting. In terms of the Sulu stuff, real quick, since we spoke about it before, it wasn't jarring, the Sulu stuff, but it still was like a sore thumb, just in terms of, not to give too much away, like where Sulu meets up with his with his I guess husband or boyfriend and their kid. It wouldn't have been as jarring if other characters were meeting up with their families. Like, it was just, he was the only person on the entire crew that happened to meet up with his family. So it's just sort of like, okay, like, and I have to get this away because it was sort of like, okay, the scene, you see the character twice, but it was like Kirk noticing, like, they get to this space station, or he meets up with them, and Kirk just happens to see Sulu like walking away with arm around his boyfriend with the kid. And it's like, all right, but then Kirk gives us like look back. It was just sort of like almost like the writers were sort of like high-fiving each other for that moment. It's just like it was unnecessary to see Kirk be like, I acknowledge you and your same-sex family. It was just sort of like not. That's where it was like, okay, you could have just showed it without.
You could have done it far more naturally.
Yes, it wasn't natural. That's what I'm trying to get. It wasn't natural. Okay. Other than that, though, everything else kind of flowed well. But and all the characters got something to do.
Right.
Even Uhura got something to do. Well, all the movies, the characters have something to do, but they made sure that in a movie like this, where you have like 7 different main characters, everyone did something. And Chekhov had a lot of good screen time, and rest in peace to the actor who passed away. That really bummed me out. Even seeing that probably bummed me out the most. Like, watch that movie the whole time. I was like, guy died tragically. What's his name? What's his name? Anton Yelkin. Yeah, very tragic. But they already said, though, they're not going to recast him. They're just going to have to write him out of the 4th one, which is probably the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So,
let's talk about a couple of DC movie universe trailers.
We're just haters.
We're just haters.
Not David Hayter.
So let's start with the Justice League Comic-Con trailer. So I still don't think anyone really knows where Zack Snyder stands on this. There's rumors, there's speculation.
I think he's locked in his trailer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, looking at the actual movie trailer, I kind of get the impression that he is.
Well, it's Comic-Con, special Comic-Con footage.
Right.
Not a trailer.
Not really a trailer.
But they released it on YouTube.
It was interesting. It definitely had levity that prior Snyder production trailers did not. So, I mean, basically this Comic-Con footage that they showed was basically Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne going around and kind of trying to recruit members to the Justice League, basically introducing himself. Basically, it's an introduction to the characters, to Cyborg, to the Flash, to Aquaman, him bantering with Wonder Woman, and obviously there is no spot with Superman. I enjoyed the part with Barry Allen. I thought that was actually pretty good. The Flash,
played by what? Ezra Miller.
I'm actually, and I mean, this is going to surprise a lot of people, I'm actually warming up to Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. We'll get to that in a little bit. I'm sad to say, at least as of what I saw, not quite as into the vision of Aquaman as I thought I might be. Although I need to see more of it. Overall, I didn't think it was awful, but I didn't think it was great because it doesn't really show anything. There was really nothing there. It doesn't tell you anything about the movie. It's a bunch of. I almost feel like they went overboard with the jokiness of it. I do think Batman. I am still further intrigued by Affleck's Batman. I have no bones about saying that I am interested in seeing an Affleck Batman movie. I do think he from this the takeaway for me from this trailer is I am definitely interested in seeing Affleck play a Bruce Wayne and play a Batman outside of Snyder's grasp, outside of Batman vs Superman. I very, very much am. And fuck all of you. I am very much interested in that. So that's my big takeaway. But there's still basically nothing known about this. And I will say this, I think a lot of the outfits look like shit. I think Cyborg's outfit looked like garbage. I thought the Flash's outfit looked like garbage.
You don't like the Flash armor?
I feel like I feel like everything needs to look like Michael Bay Transformers or that Power Rangers bullshit. It's like everyone took one look at Iron Man's suit and decided that they all had to copy Iron Man's suit in some way, shape, or form.
I just think it's interesting that the Flash TV outfit looks better than the one in the movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's almost like they had to go, oh, we can't do the one from the TV, but we got to do something that much different.
No, the TV outfit looks way better.
They had to differentiate it, I guess, for no real reason.
I'm still upset that they've felt the need to splinter off the TV universes
stupid
in the movie universes.
Now I got to see things on Twitter. Well, we cast a new Superman. Oh, it's a TV Superman for the Supergirl. That's not, it's just like, come on, man. You couldn't lay something out. You couldn't do that and have the. I feel bad for the TV Flash. I really do, because everyone says he does a good job.
Yeah,
you couldn't throw him in here.
I've heard for a CW TV show, it's fantastic.
It's almost like they want to keep the lower budget, TV, but it's not even that lower budget anymore. They like the Arrow and stuff. They have good effects. They're not just movie level effects. But look at Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. They do stuff.
I mean, so what's your takeaway on the footage? I mean, is it similar to mine?
This is heavily counter Zack Snyder. Like, this is Affleck saying, this is my show. Maybe that's why they had him in most of the footage.
Yeah.
But I here's the thing. I have not seen Affleck's portrayal in Batman v Superman to know that is this portrayal even in this footage that far different than that.
Right.
Because if the tone is that far different, then yeah, this is Affleck saying, I want to lighten this up. Because even for this, Batman's a little bit lighter than usual than he is, I think, even in past movies or the comics.
I don't think he's going to be that light for the whole movie. I think, like you said,
it's lighter.
I think this is a direct.
He's like Tony Starking it a little bit in this trailer.
This is definitely a ham-fisted. Look, guys, look.
Humor.
Funny stuff. We're doing jokes.
And I hate to
we
say
got
it,
jokes.
I hate to say it, coming off of Civil War, that's Tony Stark meeting Spider-Man. I mean, that's basically the scene with the Flash, which is fine.
Well, the him in the Flash part was totally
absolutely.
Iron Man and Peter Parker.
He's saying, well, I'm not really the Flash, and he throws a battering at him, and he has to avoid it, so he says, oh, you're fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you're here, asshole. You should know that.
Can I keep it?
Yeah.
Very much Peter Parker.
Very Peter Parker.
So, to continue parallels, let's talk a little bit about the Wonder Woman trailer, and continuing my softening on Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman.
So our Comic-Con up in the on top of the Warner Bros.
Were
DC
we
booth.
together or no, we weren't? But yeah, that was holy shit. Did that create
shut
a shit
down
show.
the whole middle of Comic-Con? It was her, Jared Leto, and someone said Will Smith as well. I didn't see Will Smith.
Yeah, I didn't see him, but someone I had two people say Will Smith was definitely up there. This is Captain America, Wonder Woman,
except World War I, which I'll get into.
Yeah. But I actually think this looks pretty good. I kind of want to see this. I'm not entirely. It's too early to say about Justice League, and honestly, if this is a part 1 of 2. If they spend too much time on recruiting, I don't know. I
think they confirmed it's going to be just one Justice League movie. They confirmed that.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Because they did initially. It was supposed to be 2 parts.
They did, but I think they confirmed that it's going to be one.
But I liked the look of this. Other than the fact that the color palette is absolutely Snyder, which I don't like. I find the premise of the movie to be interesting. And while this is somewhat of an origin story, this is not an origin story that has been told 500 times before.
No.
So, I feel like they're portraying the character in an interesting, not necessarily an interesting light, but in a stronger light than at least I was led to believe that they were portraying her in Batman vs Superman. It's a good mix of the classic Wonder Woman, but also the Amazon Wonder Woman with the sword, the shield, but also the lasso.
Yeah, she didn't have the lasso, I think, in Batman v Superman, did she?
No, I don't know. I don't believe
they never
so.
showed it.
But also the lasso. I like I said, I enjoyed what I saw. I don't know what more there is to say about it, but there's something about that whole superhero in the midst of a war thing that I find to be very interesting to me.
I just think it's weird they didn't want to do World War II because that's when she first made her first appearance.
Yes.
In the what was it? Was it 40 or 39? Was her first
appearance? Yeah, I'm sorry. That's what confused me because that's what I'm thinking back to. I actually didn't think it was World War I.
No, there was no comic books probably till what 34 about. Anyway, so that was the only thing that was weird to me because it's not like the Germans were bad guys in World War One, but not compared to what they were in World War Two. It was like night and day almost. So maybe they didn't want that comparison to Captain America, so they pushed it back to World War One. I think it's interesting just because you can get away with I thought the most interesting part of the trailer was seeing all the Amazon riding on horseback on the beach to fight the Germans.
Yeah.
That to me was really cool. That sort of visual. And I guess you couldn't get away with that as much in World War II, I guess. Maybe that's why. I don't know. Either way, I think this is going to be interesting. And we'll get in a second why this might be the movie that gets people back into the DC sort of fold. In the run-up to Justice League, which comes out, I believe, was it like next May or June? Or is it a little
Because this is early spring, or early spring or late winter.
When is
2017, right?
I think it's February.
Okay.
When is this coming out? Release date for Justice League. Yeah. No, this is going to be June 2nd. Oh, they pushed it back. June 2nd for Wonder Woman. Oh.
Well, there was a change in directors. I can't remember their names, but one director left and then another one came in. So but they were both female.
So we have November 2017 for Justice League.
Okay.
With a sequel following up in 2019, which won't be part 2, it'll be a different movie.
Oh, gotcha.
So that's what the plan. Okay, so they shifted a little bit. Okay. So
might not be a bad thing if they're trying to get away from the Snyderverse.
Yeah, more space. Let's just breathe.
Reshoots.
I think it's very interesting that all these movies, they keep either changing these dates or shifting them around or pushing up and down with these DC. They're really trying to... They're pussyfooting it on this a little bit, but they have to at this point.
I think it lends a lot of credibility to the fact that they're really trying to work him the fuck out of this.
Oh, I think he's already... I think this is the last movie he directs. This is Justice League. After that, he's gone.
I think he's directing it in a paper form only.
Oh, well, let's hope, right, Ian?
Yeah, because I can't support him with my dollars unless I know for a fact he's had very little to do with it.
All right. So speaking of the DC movie universe, some sort of Suicide Squad. Ian. Well, it comes out this Friday. We're recording this on August 2nd. Reviews are coming in now, fast and furious. A few days before. Not a good sign when you hold the reviews until 2 days before it comes out, which they did with Batman v Superman. Hopefully this is going to be for every DC movie. With Civil War, they came out 4 weeks before.
Right. They felt strong enough in that movie.
So right now it's sitting at 35% on Rotten Tomatoes.
34?
35.
Oh, okay, because this morning when you picked me up, it was 39.
Okay. Keep in mind, it's only 54, which actually is 54 reviews released so far. 19 positive, 35 negative. Average score, which is also important, is 5.4 out of 10. Which probably means that if this is a bad movie, it's probably like a 4 out of 10 bad, but the positive is probably only like a 6 out of 10 or 6.5. So even you're not gonna get many glowing reviews for this movie, I don't think. So there were some glowing reviews for Batman v Superman. Kind of sick that there were, but there were a few that were like, "Oh, this is the best thing ever." With this, I don't think you're ever gonna reach those heights. I just don't think.
Director David Ayers had the balls 2 nights ago to be talking about how great the movie was and to say "fuck Marvel" during his initial screening.
He apologized. He did apologize.
Kind of half-assedly. Well, someone in the crowd said it, so I just parroted it back. But I'm sorry to all my brother filmmakers. The fucking hubris.
I don't understand with him and Snyder attacked Ant-Man last year. And I was just like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you even trying to bring... You're bringing more comparison. It's it's just weird. But let's go through some of these. I'll say some positive and negative. I'm just going to run through the top... We'll do the top critics, the top 20. We'll run through some of these real here. From US Weekly, David Ayers' flash and dash directing style makes it a challenge to follow the story, not to mention a chore to process the onslaught of violence. From New York Daily News, the weaker characters and generally weak plot keep it from being one of the better comic book movies. I'll skip to it. Variety, on paper this could have been the antidote to an increasingly codified strain of comic book movies, but in the end it's just another high attitude version of the same. Come on, where's a positive one? What stole the soul of Suicide Squad? I'd say it's Ayers' willingness to go all limp dick and compromise his hardcore action bona fides for a PG-13 crowd pleaser that would rather ingratiate than cut deep or even cut at all. Ooh.
Wow.
Here's a positive one. it's probably best to think of Suicide Squad as a primer and entry into a side world of the DC universe that may pay bigger benefits in later films.
That's not a positive review.
Well, that's a 3 out of 5. This is a positive one. That's 2.5 out of 4. So that's like barely above average. The characters are the ultimate in squad goals, but they're far more fun than the actual story itself. So, okay.
This is a case of Batman vs Superman again, where even the positive reviews. This is the problem with aggregate sites too, by the way. This is where the positive reviews are not even that positive.
Yeah. Here's the problem. You have an Avengers film of C-list characters without any build-up to either of them, which is what the first solo podcast, when you were here, that they announced, I said, this sounds like a weird idea, just to do this. And it's still a weird idea. Doesn't mean it's not going to make money, because I think the forecast is making 110 million or so, 115 million. I think it'll drop off precipitously second weekend like Batman v Superman did.
I love that word.
Because people are going to be like, this movie sucks, don't go see it, which is what happened with Batman v Superman. But you can't do that with C-listers. You just can't do it. And people are going to say Guardians of the Galaxy. That was the 10th Marvel movie in, not the second or third. And the Marvel movies had even the worst Marvel movies weren't like 38%. The worst Marvel movies like Thor Dark World and Iron Man 2 were like 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. Right. They were in the 30s. That's the difference.
Right.
They were still competently made films, if not like wow,
And I don't remember which review it was. I did try to look it up and glance it, but you had mentioned it was that you've got this Suicide Squad, but these aren't mercs. These are supervillains. Well, villains with superpowers.
Some of them,
and they're not using them.
Harley Quinn doesn't have any superpowers. She's a bat.
But they're not using them.
They're not using it for a chunk of the film.
It's gunfights and shit. It's kind of it's avoiding the better stuff that some of these characters have for I don't know what reason. And here's the weird thing, and I'm gonna admit it. There was a brief week where I was kind of like, because I did remember that the Joker wasn't supposed to be in it for that much, but I was like, maybe I'll just give it a shot.
I actually still want to give it a shot. I'll watch it like on a Monday or afternoon. I don't have nothing to do. I'll watch it.
But now I'm like, no.
I think it's interesting on IMDb. You have they paid off like all these critics are by Marvel. It has a 9.0 rating on IMDb from 5,800 users when it's not even out yet anywhere yet, which I just think is funny. So there's like either they're scared, they want to bump up the praise before it comes out. There's only 28 actual reviews on here so far. It's just weird because again, is this right? Rotten Tomatoes was wrong before on these. It says it's only an hour and 40 minutes. I don't know how the hell you tell a tale and supposedly there's origins for most of these characters too in the first like half hour. So I mean, how do you do that and then tell something in an hour and 40 minutes? I have no idea.
Well, reviews are saying that the movie is completely disjointed and doesn't make sense, and it's just like scene, 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 scene,
with no actual like plot running through it.
Yeah.
I hate to be right on stuff like this because I wanted this to be a fun movie. People are saying some of the critics are saying like it's just a bunch of music videos, and like it's an extended trailer. They saw Guardians of the Galaxy. They saw, here's some old music. Let's have our heavily used music. We'll use music as well, with not getting why the music worked in Guardians of the Galaxy. It was actually central to the plot, the music choices, and it had to do with one of the characters. Here they're just, we'll get a Queen song in, we'll get White Stripes, we'll get Kanye, and we'll just have awesome scenes to it.
Hopefully this is closing one book and potentially opening another. Ending one chapter of the Marvel DC universe, and perhaps starting something. DC universe? Yeah, and starting something brighter.
Starting with Gal Gadot.
Yeah, well, starting with Wonder Woman, and perhaps
But what if it doesn't, though?
Well, if it doesn't, then we're all. Then it's just fucked.
Let's put it this way, because we were like, because people are like, Suicide Squad looks great. What if Wonder Woman also comes out and it's not bad, but it's just mediocre? It's like 55% of Rotten Tomatoes. And then you go into Justice League, and then at that point it's like, I mean, there's only so much ill will you could avoid, even if you want to like these movies. There's only so much. Yeah, it was okay, could have been better, that you can take before you see your hopes just dash with a Justice League movie that just disappoints.
Right.
But then at that point, what do you do? I mean, honestly, what would you do? Just hope that these individual movies turn out better? Because at this point, it's like, what if Iron Man 1 sucked? What if Thor 1 sucked? Captain America sucked? Would you be that excited to see Avengers? Would Avengers made like $2 billion, whatever the hell it made?
No, I mean, at that point, the studios just got to pull the plug.
And then we can say we told you so about Zack Snyder.
I think we can say we told you so about Zack Snyder.
Oh, one more thing about the music is that what the hell is that song with come baby come, you gotta give me love. What's that called?
I think that was K7 Zunga. No, that's not. I don't
Zoom,
know.
whatever.
Zunga Zang.
Sure.
I don't know.
That's in the movie. Spoilers. And they said it was basically in the movie just for the small portion of the song where it synced to the action of swing batter batter swing batter batter swing, and that's basically why it's in the movie.
I don't. Okay, great.
You can kind of guess what character that's kind of going to be for, but then it's like that's the difference in use of music between something like this and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Wonderful.
Like, yeah.
Okay.
Swing batter 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 swing batter swing. All right. Q&A time on the CU podcast. This is from at Marcus Aurelius, not the Marcus Aurelius. He's been gone for a while. Do expanded works of video games like comics and novels add to the overall experience or ruin the original product?
I mean, honestly, I think it just depends on who you are and how much you like that game and what you think you're going to get out of it. For instance, my Vonnie's brother loved the I think it was the Gears of War comic. Said that it fleshed out the universe a lot, added a lot to it. I know a lot of people who really like the Link to the Past comic that Nintendo did. I personally have never been...
Just bought that at Comic-Con, the trade paperback of that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be great. I personally have never had any interest in expanded works. As a matter of fact, I avoided everything that expanded upon Final Fantasy VII because I felt like even though it's not one of my favorite games, and I feel like it's a bit overrated, it is a good game, and I felt like expanding upon what was told in the game would eliminate some of the room for interpretation that I liked about it.
Sure.
So it depends on what you want out of it. I feel like games like I think heavy action games like Gears of War and Halo, especially first-person shooters, stuff like Overwatch with the incredibly well-done, almost Pixar-quality shorts that Blizzard puts out, stuff like that really benefits from expanded universe stuff. But, games that are already story-heavy, I feel like it's unnecessary and kind of ruins what's special about the storytelling that's already there.
So action games, first-person shooters, you can expand upon a little bit easier because the gameplay doesn't really lend itself to telling the story as much. Well, there's always cutscenes, but it's not a huge amount.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's a little light on the storytelling because they want to keep you immersed in the gameplay.
I especially like the novel to Danny Sullivan's Indie Heat.
That's a good
really
one.
Fleshes out the backstory.
The two chapters devoted to the pit crew.
Oh yeah,
fucking tear-jerking.
You got right inside what they experience, what they go through, how integral they are to the team, to make sure Danny succeeds, and of course the tragedy on race number 4. One gets run over, and you see his little body on the track. Yeah. It's very tragic.
Wife runs out, just kids crying in the stands.
Anyway,
Ninja File. Aside from NWC cards, what's the most money you've ever spent on a single video game?
I'm not going to say the actual values, but the most I've spent on a single video game would have to be... Do you see the Myriad 6-in-1 to your left on the shelf there?
No, but I've seen it before.
It should be right there unless someone stole it.
Yeah, there it is.
Let's show them. It's right there if you can get it for me. So... That's a Maxi 15, Ian. That's
okay.
Not,
all right.
not
I mean,
Myriad.
whatever. I don't know. I don't know where it is, Pat.
All right. So the Myriad 6-in-1, as Ian puts that back in, I spent a lot on that. I think it's on the far left, actually, Ian. That's the most I spent money on. There it is. There it is. So there it is. Let's show the camera. Myriad 6-in-1. And the number matches the box and cart, which doesn't happen often with those to find that. So that, and then good old Magical Chase for TurboGrafx 16, I spent the most on. Differences being, Magical Chase was the last game I needed, so I had to get that. Myriad 6-in-1 was sort of a deal that fell into my lap, and sort of like, I'd be losing money if I didn't buy it. Basically, one of those sort of things that, like, if I was ever, which is how it's worked out with my rarer games now, where it's like, I'm not actively seeking it, but if it's a deal that's too good to be true, I sort of buy it. That's basically what happened with that game. Where
You'd
it's
be
like
losing money.
You'd be losing money. That's like the Jim Gaffigan thing where he sees like 2 Whoppers for like $4.
Yeah.
Oh, you gotta buy it. I'd be losing money on this deal if I don't. So those were the 2 ones I spent the most on at a single time. And I have a couple more games I want to buy, and who knows how much I'll spend, but that'll probably be more. What about you?
For me, it depends on what your definition of spend is. My Sapphire, I didn't spend physical money on, but I did spend man hours on.
It was the cash equivalent.
Yeah, it was the cash equivalent. So that was probably the most I've spent on a game. In terms of money out of pocket, I went until last year. I went my entire life doing pretty good with bargains, ending up with games worth, in some cases, well over $100 without ever spending over $100 on them, until I finally broke down and bought a copy of Nexer for the PC Engine. I won't say what I spent on it. I got a good deal on it, but I definitely broke my rule, went over 100, and once you do that once, it gets a little bit easier to do it. I think I may have done it one other time for another game. Can't remember what, though, off the top of my head. Although there's a couple other games that I have my eyes on that I may go over 100 on.
It's not common for even me to spend over $100 on a game. I'm trying to think of even the NES library, at least cartridge. Obviously, getting like a boxed like Chubby Cherub or Donkey Kong Jr. Math. I spent actually Donkey Kong Jr. Math. I think I got for only about 100 or 90 at the time. But for the cartridge games, I don't know how many I spent over 100. There might only be one out of the entire NES library putting together where I spent more than $100 on a cartridge game.
Well, you did most of your collecting back when that was still somewhat viable, as long as you held out. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There will come a point. It's easier when I look at it in terms of how much I'll play something. A platformer, as much as I love them, I'm probably not going to spend more than 100 on. A shooter, I can justify it because I'll run a shooter into the ground.
So you base on how much you're actually going to play.
Yeah.
How much wear and tear am I going to put on this game?
A copy of Nexer, I've gotten more play out of a copy of Nexer than I ever did out of, various RPGs that, are, 60 hours in length. Well, I've probably run about 60 hours out of Nexer, if not more. I mean, I will sit there and play shooters forever. So.
All right. What about consoles? Does that count? No.
Nah.
Consoles don't count.
Nah.
At Crush K. Arankus, you always talk about fake carts, repro labels, etc. Can we have a discussion what we should look for? Let's give them a little primer.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a few things you should look for. I mean, without having things to show you.
My little Samson.
Without having things to show you, there are a few things you should be able to do. If you're buying something that's worth a bit of money, the first thing you should be able to do is ask the person if you can take that cartridge apart and look at the interior and be able to compare the chips to a known real copy online and make sure the board looks legit. Mm-hmm. First thing you'll notice about most repros is you're going to see wires jumping all over the place. And the second you see something like that, if you see anything other than chips that are
irregular
on the board,
chips that aren't marked,
then you're probably dealing with a bootleg board. Labels, as much as it sucks, are getting harder to determine, but you're generally going to notice differences in hues compared to a normal label. Now, that's also somewhat tough to determine because you have to be looking at an original label on a quality monitor that's going to display the colors truly. But you will always notice some differentiation in color. No modern printer is really going to get that color precisely like the original printer is going to do. Mm-hmm. Also, the detail, application of the label, DPI, the clarity of certain things.
Look at the smallest writing that you can find.
Right.
And compare it to another cart. if you have, or even just another NES card. Look at the seal. Look how official Nintendo seal quality looks on it.
Now, keep in mind, a Nintendo seal of quality that is not perfectly clear does not mean that it's a fake cart. But you want it to look... If it's unclear, you want it to look unclear in the same ways as it does on other cartridges.
Obviously, look for pixelization or something from a modern printer that, or from an image that might be blown up, or just look around, look at the edges of letters, things like that.
If you're concerned about it being an AliExpress, just feel the plastic. I can't stress that enough. The plastic is going to feel cheap and shitty. AliExpress cartridges are not really using donor cartridges. They're making their own cartridges, and they're going to feel like crap. They're not going to feel the same. The plastic is going to feel off, and the plastic isn't going to be as sturdy. When you have a fake cartridge in your hand, whether it's a Game Boy Advance cartridge or a Game Boy cartridge or an NES cartridge or even a Genesis cartridge, there's generally going to be some give, or the sheen is going to feel weird, or the slickness or the texture of it's going to feel off.
Make sure that the back label is correct.
Yeah. That's always going to be something that could potentially be wrong. Spelling errors.
I've seen people starting to sell repros of those.
Yep.
The back labels. Make sure that, that the security screws are the same ones. Make sure that it has the right security screws versus, make sure it's a 3 versus 5 screw.
Yeah, I was going to say, make sure you're not buying a rare 5-screw
Remember
little
the 5-screw little Samson?
Yeah, exactly. Because that's not a fucking
because
thing.
that didn't exist. They switched to 3 screws securities in 87. They switched over. So any game made after 87 should only be 3 screws and security screws. I mean, that's something that maybe not common sense to you, but if you don't know that, that's something you look for. Obviously, like Ian said, the weight, everything, the feel of it. That's your primer. Unfortunately, looking at the visuals, unless you have a direct comparison, but even looking on your phone, like you said, look at the different sort of colors. Usually they can be muddied a little bit. They'll just look off. Even from other Nintendo, they'll just look off.
You'll see hues that bleed into each other.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Color bleed is a big thing. I mean, any number of those things. And honestly, I hate to say it. If a label looks too good to be true or too perfect, I'm not saying that perfect labels don't exist, but these cartridges are very, very old. You're likely going to notice something on there that's lacking.
That's a good point. Look at the cut of the label.
Yeah.
Look at the placement of the label. Usually the placement of these labels are pretty much the same for most games, where you won't see any overlap or that much underlap. And they'll always will line up left to right. I've never seen a Nintendo game where like it was off on a corner.
No.
The label. So it's very hard to apply these perfectly. So make sure the label looks like, are the corners rounded or are they cut square?
Yeah.
Does it look miscut at all? Does it look like does it line up? Then that means it was hand cut. So that's a very important point on these. I see a lot of the fake ones where on the spine it won't come flush.
No, it won't come flush.
It'll be up too much.
Exactly. The actual title will kind of roll over the top a little
so
bit.
Either it was either sized wrong or cut wrong. So it's hard to do a really good job on the labels, but I know people are getting better at it. But at the end, ask to open that sucker up, which leads us into our next Q&A question. Is it rude to ask a seller to show the game if the game works, and real if it's pricey game, especially if they have demo consoles out?
If it's a pricey game and there is a demo console, meaning I have one in the store, no, it's not rude. It's perfectly reasonable. I've even opened rare cartridges for people before. I have no problem doing that. I do try to explain to people, especially if it's a busy day, that I do this when it comes in. I make sure it plays. I make sure it's the right game. I open these myself. I inspect them. But if I'm going to be making a high-priced sale, I'm willing to go that length for that person. I understand their concerns because I have my concerns when these games come in. My bigger concern or the thing that drives me nuts is when people come in and they buy a handful of $10 games and they want me to pull an NES out of my case and show them that a copy of Top Gun and Ghosts and Goblins and Super Mario Brothers 1 all work. And I'm like, we have a warranty on the games and this, that, and the next thing. No, I don't think it's rude. I do think you need to expect that if you're at a store and I'm going to do this for you, that I have to get my smaller sales out of the way first. I have to clear the store out. And because this can occasionally be a longer process, I have to set up the store. Not all stores have demo consoles out. A store that's busy like Luna Video Games, especially like our busiest location, the La Mesa location, we don't have demo consoles because we need to sell those consoles. But no, it's not particularly rude if someone's got a copy of Shatterhand 2 or something like that. At the same point in time, if you're a hardcore collector, I think you should probably understand that if it's a reputable shop that you've dealt with before, they're probably testing it out, and you should also probably know that cartridges are basically infallible. I think this certainly makes more sense if you're buying something that's known to be touchy, like say a Dreamcast game, or if you're buying a copy of Panzer Dragoon Saga and I have a Saturn on hand. Yeah, I have no problem booting up those discs and showing you that they work. But asking me to test out a $20 copy of a game or something like that, I do find that to be a bit unreasonable. And I do have people who will ask me to do that, and to that it's, I will oftentimes say no, especially if it's a busy day.
Okay. I would say, real quickly, add something to this, is that it probably also depends upon maybe the seriousness of the buyer. And if he bought a lot from you before, you'd be willing to go out of your way.
Sure, you need to know that that's absolutely right.
If I've dropped $1,000 in your store before, I would hope that you can set aside a couple minutes to test a cartridge.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Versus someone that asked to test out cartridges in the past, or he's going to test out, I don't know, freaking Gilligan's Island. It's like, really? It's like, come on.
I've had a lot of there have not a lot, but I have had customers who have done that to me before and been like, okay, thanks, and then left.
And leave.
And they've done that a couple times, and I feel like maybe they're like, okay, I've seen this work. I'm gonna go home and think on it. But then they come back a week later and they ask me to test out something completely different when that cartridge is still in there, and it's like,
at that point you can ask, okay, what's the point?
Well, I might do it a couple of times, but then it's like, why?
Yeah,
what's your intent?
I would ask, are you interested in buying?
Are you? Yeah, exactly. And I try to be polite about it, but it's
Do you want to see the gameplay?
Especially because I stress I don't have demo consoles set up, so
you should probably keep one, or keep a multi-console or something. You can quickly do it.
A multi-console is one thing, but like I said, a lot of these expensive games that people want, it's Saturns, it's Dreamcast, it's things that I don't have multiples of, and it's something that I have in the case, to be sold. This is from hello Bryce. This is from B. McRandomus. What's the most difficult thing to deal with at conventions?
I think that it obviously varies from person to person what your experience is. If you're someone who's just going there to buy stuff or hang out, it also depends upon your convention type. If you're going to something like Comic-Con, you got to deal with the huge crowds. Some people, it gets very tiring just getting around to things, or not being able to get into your panel that you want to get to. So that could be the most difficult thing to deal with. If it's a retro game convention, maybe it's trying to find good deals there, or maybe it's I don't know, getting to panels there. So it could be tough. It really depends what your experience is. My experience is not your experience. I'm coming there from a different perspective, where unless you're asking specifically what's my most difficult thing to deal with,
I feel like he meant on both sides.
Okay. So for me, it's just it's great, but it's just very tiring. Ian's good at it, I'm good at it, but we meet people for several hours a day, and it's almost nonstop in some instances, like at Too Many Games or Portland, where there's no lull in it. So while it's great meeting everyone, it's just mentally taxing. Not everyone has the personality to even deal with that, but to do that then 2 days in a row, it's just very tiring. So I'm usually wrecked. The 2 or 3 days after I come back from a convention like that, I'm just like, I can't do anything. I'm just sort of like dead tired. Small price to pay, but it is a price. That's probably the most difficult thing to deal with at conventions. Other than that, it's just lugging the DVDs there. They're heavy, they're not light. And then if I have extra games, pricing them out and things like that. That's personally probably my most difficult things to deal with, and trying to fit everything in. trying to be able to hang out with people you know, while also doing all those responsibilities of being a guest at a convention. That's tough. While also trying to sneak in time to actually shop around. I get limited time to actually shop around at conventions. I gotta run around real quick for like 20 minutes and look to see what they have, and I usually don't end up buying that much anymore. But I like to look at least.
Most of mine would mimic Pat's. For the attendee, it can be crowds depending on your ability to handle them. For instance, this year at Comic-Con, I felt that it was one of the busiest years. It only gets busier every year.
Somehow it does, they let the same amount of people in, I think. It's still very busy.
I feel like some years they're slowly testing fire code. But like Sunday, or maybe it's just that some days that I expect to be slower have gotten busier. Like, yes. Sunday this year felt like an absolute shit show.
Sunday for the first time felt like, oh shit, there's this shit that are actually comics on the right side. We should look at them and look at some toy stuff. That in the past, Sundays were usually clear on that like right side of the convention. This year it was packed.
So, there's always that, like Pat said, finding good deals. I find that too many games, you can find some good prices. And at Portland, you can find some good prices. As much as I enjoy MagFest for the party aspect, you're not generally finding good prices, at least in my experience at MagFest. On the side of doing a convention, for me, to touch on something that Pat said, I love meeting people, and I've met so many nice people, people that I talk to online. It's really great to meet them in real life, but I'm a shyer person than Pat is, and I get very, I guess the only word I can use to describe it is very electric, and it tires me.
He's got a feeling. He's electric.
And I have to take breaks. I have to go find a quiet spot. I have to take a couple breaths. I have to take some water. You get
amped up. It's almost like you get amped up.
No, I get real amped up. People talked about how this last live panel we did, I was on, and they really enjoyed like my presence at the panel, and I appreciated that. But at the same point in time, it kind of bothered me only because it was weird, because that's not me. I was only that way because I was so amped up, and in a way I had kind of hit this hypomanic state where I was a little outside of I was a little uncomfortable with how I was acting. I don't think I don't think I was.
You weren't belligerent.
I wasn't belligerent, or I wasn't crazy or anything like that. But I mean, it was the excitement and the electricity of the event that put me in a spot that I'm not normally in.
360.
Yeah,
you got the macho man.
I was in a little bit of a macho man mode. And what the bigger problem about conventions, the bigger problem with conventions, and that is, I sleep notoriously poorly at conventions. Too many games, and I do have to credit Vani, I think, a great deal with this one, and also the fact that I went into too many games after an emergency room visit, and I was very concerned about my health, and I was playing it very cool. But at all prior conventions, whether it was MagFest, which was 4 days, or 3-day conventions, honest to goodness, I got sleep over the total course of those conventions in the single digits. I think the lowest amount of sleep I ever got at a convention was a 3-day convention. I got 6 hours of sleep. And at MagFest, I got about 9. So it's very taxing on my body, and by the time I get home, I'm dead. But I love them. I have a lot of fun, but it does take a real toll on my body.
At Testy Ant, what is your opinion on the Funko Pop craze? Do you think the bubble on them has finally burst?
I hate it. I'm not gonna lie. I have a handful of Pops, and the ones that I have, I like. The ones that I have mostly don't look a lot like Pops. For instance, the Alien Xenomorph Pop doesn't even have like the stereotypical Pop eyes
Oh, it doesn't?
on it. No, it's just like a weird super deformed xenomorph. It looks pretty cool. I have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles pops, the 4 turtles, Splinter and Shredder. Vonnie likes to collect the ones that are robots.
RoboCop maybe, or
I don't think she has
Terminator?
RoboCop, but like Wally,
Okay.
Eve, and a couple from
They have
Yo
every
Gabba Gabba.
fucking license under the sun somehow.
They do.
It's amazing.
Because they make money.
What happened to Mighty Mugs drop the ball?
Yeah, we have a couple of them, but these are earlier lines, and as time went on, I just get the design is so vanilla and so bland, and I don't get I don't get the collectability, or the fascination with them, other than, like Pat said, every license under the sun
Everything.
has them.
Every
So
movie, TV show.
if
comic
you
book.
want a little piece of shelf candy or something for your desk that's based on one of your favorite licenses or your favorite characters, 90% chance you can find a pop of it, or there will be a pop of it. But they've gotten so uniform and boring looking. It's like they take, I swear there's a Pop app that only the people who work at Pop have, where they snap a picture of something and they run it through this cartoony boop 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 boop, and it spits out a pop on the other end. Because it's just, they all have the same shape, the same form. And while I am certainly not a toy collector, I have toy collector friends who look at them as just disposable, and they are. I mean, in years, these things are going to be worth nothing, and they're going to be filling up landfills.
You hate comparing something to Beanie Babies, but come on. The only difference between this and Beanie Babies is that this is based upon like licenses that people know about. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's the same thing.
It is.
It really is.
And in the pop line, at Comic-Con is insane.
yeah.
It's just nuts.
There was, you see that one vendor with the wall of them, like literally like
every year for the
20
past,
by
like, 5
10
years.
foot wall.
So,
of them. Yeah.
I mean, just to answer the last part of the question, I don't think the bubble is burst. The
No.
shops that my wife runs, or my wife manages, still sell them by the truckload.
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
every store they have has what they call a mountain of pops in the center that they have to, that each one has set up. They have the huge mountain of pops at Comic-Con. There's lines that you have to line up for at 4 a.m. to get them.
Yeah.
The trolleys for the San Diego trolleys for Comic-Con this year were completely decked out for Conan O'Brien, but they were all
pops.
covered in the exclusive Conan O'Brien pops that you got for going to the panels this year. The pop craze, it's gonna die at some point. Yes, that bubble's gonna burst, but I think it's got it. My one toy collector friend and I were discussing it. We think it's probably got another 3 years.
Well, when did it blow up? The past like 2 years?
Probably the past 2 years. Yeah, probably the past 2-3 years. They've been around for longer than that.
They have been. Mighty Mugs was how long Mighty Mugs been around for? Mighty Mugs is like limited though. That's only a few different lines. Correct?
Yeah.
That's not like everything.
No, Mighty Mugs was a lot smaller, and it started
Star
off as
Wars,
mostly superheroes and
Star Wars, Marvel, Indiana Jones, G.I. Joe, Transformers. That was Mighty
Yeah.
Mugs for the most part. So they kept it more limited, and that was what Hasbro. It was like I didn't know it was by Hasbro. Okay, let's see. When did that come out? But now they have like shows coming up for these.
Oh, really?
Pop shows. They I think a year and a half ago is when I started to see them being sold to swap meet. I have like a dealer having just like a majority of them, or at least 2. Sometimes you see 2 of them. This is the thing about bubbles. This is how you define. When more people get into it as speculation versus enjoying it, you officially have a bubble. And then you have to answer. I'm not an expert at this. If people out there collect these, are there more speculators in it right now than people that are into it to enjoy it? And once you get that tipping point, that's when it's going to fail. Because that's what happened with baseball cards in the 90s. That's what happened with comics in the 90s. That's what happened with Beanie Babies. When you have more people getting into it, just thinking, I'm going to get rich off it. When you have everyone thinking you're going to get rich off of something, and you have no one going to buy it after the prices get pumped up artificially, you have basically like a pyramid scheme, you're going to find the final idiot then who has a worthless thing they spent $1,000 on a Beanie Baby, and then everyone says, why is that worth anything? Because there's all these other Beanie Babies out there. There's a million of them. And where's the end game with this? They're just made to make money. And if you think that's where it's headed with these pop figures, then it'll be the same result.
Yeah, and they have shown signs of overstepping their boundaries. They did release a line of toys two lines. One is called Dorbs, which
oh, that's right. The little
which
ones?
are round-headed, completely round-headed, and really all that's different is they're completely round-headed, and they have these little cutesy like arc eyes. And according to Vani, they've gone over like lead balloons.
No one likes them?
And they have they call them Japanese style soft vinyl toys. They're called Hikari Sofubi, and they're like soft vinyl, and they don't seem to be doing particularly well either. They did like Ninja Turtles and Batman.
So it's almost too much. Like we have enough trouble keeping up with the main line. Now you're doing these.
Right. So I think that could get them
them
in trouble.
Oh yeah, there was a Dorbs in a Loot Crate a couple months ago. At first I was like, what is that? Oh, it's just a pop figure.
It's another Funko thing.
It's just deformed a little bit more. I had not a revelation. I was with Andre, though. Black Nerd Comedy was part of our panel. Walking around, I think it was Saturday. Walking past all this merchandise. I forget what the specific one was. I think it was like a Star Wars like light cover or something like that. And I just said, all this shit's going to be in a landfill in 20 years. I said it to Andre. I said, people are spending money on all this shit, and most of this is going to be thrown out.
Yep.
And I'm not anti-consumerism at all, but it just hit me that was sort of like my, not epiphany, because I kind of, I realized some of this stuff, but it was sort of like in front of my eyes, like, this is all fucking garbage. This is all plastic shit we are buying that leads to nowhere. At least these, you can play these.
Yeah.
No one's playing with the fucking pop figure. They're just putting it on their shelf and looking at it.
Well, I mean, Vani and I are wrestling with that now. We're looking around at our apartment, and it's like, we're trashing this, we're getting rid of this, and it's not like it's a ton, but we don't live in the biggest of spaces, and it's like, okay. And I can't tell you how many things I looked at Comic-Con this year, and I'm like, that's cool.
It would be cool. Do I need it?
But no.
Yeah, I'm finally getting to that point. You'll be happy to hear that. I'm finally like, would be cool. Don't need it.
Yeah.
More with toys though with the games though.
No, like books. The thing is I look at a book and I'm like, I can read that, lend it out, reread it, and I'm like, okay, but statuettes, toys, things like that.
Statues, that's the thing. I see these awesome statues being sold for $400. Beautiful. Ghostbuster figures that are that big. Gizmo with the fire arrow. If you saw that one at Comic-Con, look gorgeous.
Then again, I'm the guy who just dropped $300 on the Voltron Soul of Chocokin. But
you did do
Chocokin, but yeah.
So I mean, there's always going to be exceptions, but do you need 100 pop figures lining your fucking wall?
No, because they all look the fucking same.
So there will be a bubble. It will burst. Just a matter of when.
Yep.
It's going to do, because now you have like websites tracking your collection. I'm looking on eBay. One sold for $500. The Funko Pop Street Fighter Ryu Gold Chase Mint Rare. Some are retired. Have the tag. You know what was also retired? Beanie Babies were retired.
Yeah.
They used that term to say, oh, you can't get it anymore, so pay more money for it. It's just kind of remember, and they can always make more of these. Whenever you can always make more of something, that collectible market means shit.
I really wanted a Vanellope from Wreck-It Ralph pop. It was one of the few that I actually really wanted. It was retired. It was going for over $100. They reissued it. Vonnie got it for me for $15.
And then what happened to the market on the originals? Did it drop?
Yeah, I'm sure
imagining
it did. I didn't bother looking, but I'm sure it did.
But
they literally reproduced it.
Yeah.
After people were buying and selling them for over 100 or 80 to 100.
And you don't think it could happen for a rare $500 one or $300 or $200?
Sure. It absolutely can. All right, let's move on.
All right. At zero Kohai, Ian said in the hypothetical SNES mini episode that he doesn't love the SNES. What are Ian's full thoughts on the system?
My full thoughts on the system are it's a bag of shit. No, not really. People love to get on me for this, and I don't know why. I know it's so many people's favorite systems, but hey, people have opinions. I don't love the SNES. I don't hate it. Part of my problem with the SNES is I didn't grow up with one, so I don't have a nostalgic collection to one. My friend, one of my best friends growing up, who I don't fucking talk to because he's a dick.
Kevin?
Kevin. Yeah, that would have been Kevin.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh.
We had this conversation.
Oh, we did?
Yeah. Everyone has a friend Kevin growing up who's a dick.
Yeah.
So I played his SNES. He played my Genesis. But even back then, the only game I really ever wanted to play on his Super Nintendo was Super Mario World. I loved Super Mario World. I thought the game was great. I didn't like it as much as Mario 3, but I mean, I really enjoyed it. I liked the soundtrack. I liked the graphics. I thought it was a really fun game. I also liked playing Street Fighter 2 on it, obviously.
Absolutely.
I liked F-Zero. And then a lot of the games that he rented that he hated, I loved. Even though I don't have a whole lot of affection for it now, when he rented Earthbound, I sat there and played Earthbound for, a bunch of hours. I liked it. I liked ActRaiser when he rented it. I said F-Zero. Mario Kart, obviously, I played a ton of. So there are games I like for the system, but I never grew up with one. One of the systems I never bought at the flea market was also a Super Nintendo. My brother bought a Super. My brother bought a Saturn. And he bought it right around the time that I moved out, when I had just turned 19. So I borrowed it from my brother, mostly to play Super Mario World. And I played some of the Mega Man X's. Super Castlevania was pretty fun, but I didn't like it as the other ones, and as much as the other ones. And Contra 3 was all right. And I played, when I moved out, I played a lot of the RPGs that I'd only, touched on emulators when I was a teenager. So it's a good system.
Boo, emulators, boo.
It's a good system. And it has a lot of great RPGs. But I think the main reason that I don't like it so much now is my main interest is platformers and shooters. And yes, I know it has platformers, but it doesn't have a ton of platformers that I really enjoy. You can talk Mega Man X's, and sure. You can talk the Mario games, and yes. No, I don't like the Donkey Kong Country games. It really does not have a great library of shooters. I do love R-Type 3. At least it doesn't have a great library of shooters in the US. I do like RPGs, but with every year that passes, I find myself with less and less time for role-playing games. So, arguably, the Super Nintendo's strongest point, and a genre that I really do like, is a genre that I can't find time for anymore. So it's not that I hate the Super Nintendo, it's that its shining genre is something that I no longer find time to play. So I don't hate the Super Nintendo. I don't love it because I just can't find time to make use of its best assets.
Sure.
The stuff that I do like playing, I find it's kind of weak in. So there, that's my full thoughts on the Super.
And you did always say it was always the library, not that it was boring, it was bland to you.
It is.
Compared to the Sega Genesis, which experimented a lot more.
The Genesis experimented a lot more. The Genesis does have a lot more of the types of platformers that I like. The Genesis has a lot more shooters. It has a lot more, like I said, the platformers are a lot more action platformers as opposed to kind of, meandering platformers. So it's a lot more action games. The beat-em-ups are great on that system.
Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of those beat-em-ups you can't find anywhere else. Like, you have Punisher arcade version, you can't find it anywhere else.
Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, just like really great, the stuff that I really enjoy. So, I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's not that the Super Nintendo is a bad system, it's just...
Nothing beats Time Sort of baseball at all. Absolutely not. Or Pat Rally basketball.
Oh, Pat, I sold a copy of that, yes, well, not yesterday, but within the past week or so, and it was like the first time I'd sold it in years.
It was to me. Did you sell it to me? It was to me.
It was to you. It was to you. I sold Pat Riley basketball to you.
That's funny. I want this someone. Who the fuck else would want a Pat Riley basketball besides Pat? All right. This is from Joshua. Why do you think that you and Ian get so much hate on retro gaming Facebook pages?
Well, I get hate because I'm an opinionated social justice warrior hipster cuck. So that's pretty easy.
We need a new acronym for all that.
Yeah. SJWHC.
Retro hipster.
I don't know, because people oftentimes can't handle opinions that aren't their own. Someone's going to reply in the comments section, it's because we present our opinions as fact, which I think is actually literally impossible, but I don't know. I don't think you can present an opinion as fact. I think it's also because retro gaming Facebook pages tend to focus a lot on the collecting and value aspect of it, and Pat and I spend a lot of time talking about, well, how video games as investment is dumb.
Yeah, it's strange that this is why my favorite website, which people don't like to even say that, they get on me. I think one of the reasons I'm not liked on Nintendo Age by and large is because I could say owning all these rare valuable games that using it as an investment is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
And to them it doesn't compute. Because it's because they can't say they try to say you're jealous I don't have a game. I got the games. You can't say it's jealousy. You can't say I'm being a hater. I walk the walk. I've been collecting since 99% of retro gamers. So you can't say I got into it the past few years. I didn't get into it to be cool. I was into it before it was big. Been collecting games since like 97. Same with you. It's been a long time. So you can't get on me for that. So I think it frustrates people. It's hard to peg people like us. What are we? Are we opportunists? Are we getting into it for the money? Like there has to be an angle for everyone. I don't think they can easily find it with us. That's in my opinion, at least. And plus, you know what? We're fucking honest, and this is who we are. We're not putting on a fucking act.
Well, I think that's part of it is...
and some people don't like that.
I've learned also from previous topics that we've discussed. As a matter of fact, two from our last podcast, the Sulu topic and the Tekken topic. It fries people's fucking circuits.
Yeah.
This is kind of going away from the Facebook thing. It fries people's circuits when they think they have one opinion of me, and I suddenly have an opinion that does not jive with their preconceived notion of me, and they get even angrier with me because I dared to have an opinion that does not fit with their preconceived notion of me.
The internet's not any place for nuanced conversation. I always said that.
Yeah.
It's because first of all, you're not. A lot of people aren't going on the internet. They either go on the internet to see an opinion they really agree with, or see one they really hate. A lot of times, you're not going on the internet to try to get your opinion changed or to actually learn something from an opposite side. Those people are actually, I would say, more balanced usually, and they're not going on the internet and wasting their time to do those endeavors. They're just.
So I've been.
Well, at least they're not leaving comments about it.
It's funny because I've been attacked by people who always argue, who hate me for my opinions because they're always against what they believe, and then they'll attack me for having an opinion that I agree with, saying like, "Oh, well, you said this the last time," and it's like, I just fucking agreed.
I'm a person.
I just fucking agreed with you, and likewise, and usually on this end of the spectrum, they will apologize or they'll kind of like understand. Okay, well, it's nuanced, but there have been people who. Our opinions have gelled time and time again, and on the one time it doesn't, they'll come at me, and it's like, dude, we're not gonna fucking agree on everything. It's just it's just human nature.
I've been called ultra liberal on some comments or liberal, and it's like, well, people want to peg you as one thing. It's like, yeah, I have liberal beliefs for some things, and other beliefs not. It's like you're allowed to have different opinions on different stuff and different your minds can think in different ways. They're not all tuned into one dial.
Yeah, I'm not a fucking shapeshifter. I'm a goddamn human being.
Yeah, people don't like that. People like to pigeonhole people. But you know what? I've never been on. Getting back to the Facebook pages, I've never been on them. The only reason I accepted this question is because every other week people would tell me, "Oh, this group said something about you." I'm like, I don't care.
No, it's a common Q&A, so we figured we might as well address it.
I mean, what are you gonna go after me and Ian for? We have better hair than you? I mean, oh. Maybe that's it. It's time. We haven't done one in a while. We're going to be opening some gifts you guys got me and Ian. Thank you very much. We always appreciate it.
Yes.
Except when you try to front me up, ladies. You send me too much candy. You want to make me fat. Don't appreciate that. Hey, it rhymes. Let's see what we got.
All right. You want to go first or me?
Let's start with, this is coming from Andrea, female, from Germany.
Female? What, does it say that? Or
Oh, I'm assuming Andrea is. You know why? It's candy. Trying to front me up, Andrea. But you know what? What better way to do that with the Haribo gummies?
Well, and the German ones have different flavors.
These are the best.
They're very good.
The best gummy bears on the planet.
Yes, they are.
As my phone goes off in the background, it's probably Frank calling. Das Original Site 1922. Maybe they'll have these in the Wonder Woman movie because it takes place during World War I, even though it's after World War I. So thank you very much. Oh, there's a card, real quick too, or a letter. Oh, this has to be, yeah. The writing's so cute. Dear Pat and Ian, thanks again for reading my letter on the show. Oh. Since Ian said he would have taken gummy bears despite all the candy he has already gotten through the show. Oh, okay. I thought I might as well provide you guys with the best gummy bears in the world. Well, you have.
They certainly are.
Thank you. Maybe it's not a... Okay, if you're not a woman, I apologize. I don't know now. Okay. I'm not going to assume anymore, but if it's from a foreign land, I don't know.
Hi, CU Podcast. Enjoy your gift. This is from Chris Summer. Drop an email at... No, not going to read that out loud. Candy may ship separately. No, it won't. It's here. One of which is for Ian, the other for Pat. DVD is for Ian.
Okay. What DVD did you get?
Oh, it's Godzilla the Complete Animated Series, which I've actually heard is really, really good.
It has the same logo as the 98 movie.
It is, but I've actually heard the animated series is good.
Oh,
so
right.
This will definitely give me something to watch. And we actually got one of these... No, I think we got 80s mix before. These were actually really fun. It's the 90s mix candy.
Oh, is this for me?
Yeah, we each get one. So
yeah, we did get the 80s one.
It's fun.
Okay, more candy. Front me up. What else you got?
Let me, just so I can keep this in the box.
What's in the box? Is that it?
What's in the box? That's it for that
All right.
box, yeah.
This is from Chris. This is from Dead Ass is my boss.
Oh!
Oh, wow.
I feel like we're being graced by celebrity.
Some of the better questions asked.
Yes.
I'm Dear Pat and Ian, I'm writing this short letter to say thank you for the many hours of quality audio you've produced while recording the CU podcast. I know I speak for a lot of listeners when I say you are both arrogant, and no, I'm kidding. When I say that the enthusiasm you both share for retro gaming as well as the many other topics you cover always makes for a thoroughly enjoyable listening experience. You may not realize it, but both of you have added a lot of positivity to the gaming culture. Well, tell that to those Facebook pages,
Thank you.
I guess.
Thank you very much.
Also, on a more personal level, it is because of the CU podcast that I decided to start a podcast of my own. Oh,
sweet.
In spite of some early audio problems, it has been a lot of fun, and I thank you for the inspiration. Oh, that's part of the things you got to work out. Therefore, in appreciation of all that you do, I have made a donation of $100 to the ASPCA in honor of the completely unnecessary podcast.
Thank you so
I hope
much.
the donation will be able to help a few animals in need. Thanks
That's
again.
so awesome.
I look forward to listening to many more enjoyable hours and episodes of the CU podcast in the future.
That made me shake.
Loyal listener, Chris. Thanks, man.
Thanks.
I just wish I could specify to only have it go towards cats, but I guess dogs too.
Hey,
well.
dogs are great as well.
Yeah, they're sure. Some are. I was almost mauled as a child by Doberman Pinscher. I saw all this story. But thanks. That's an awesome. Honestly, that's an awesome sort of.
That's so great.
Thought of us. I won't front me up as much. What's next?
That's why I put it on my wish list. That was my only wish list.
This is from Marty Kirby. Trumpilius J. Caesar. Getting a little political. It's Trump in a Julius Caesar sculpture, and it looks like it's a play. It's a play.
He writes plays based on modern political figures.
What was the last one he sent us?
It was Rob Ford based. It was Macbeth based on Rob Ford.
Yes. Okay, so very niche genre.
It was very amusing, and this should actually be quite amusing, I think.
Trumpilius' son, Sendivius, is searching for the murderers of his biological mother, Biana, and scorns the thought of accepting Melenerol as his mother. Oh, Jesus Christ, man. In the shadows, the Libertarianist Party is growing as America's citizens feel betrayed by both the Establists and the Democulus. Oh, see, he wants the Libertarian Party to grow. So do I. Well, there you go. Chock full of conspiracy and double crosses, Trumpilius J. Caesar is a 5-act play that examines the pain and pressure of modern politics. Follow him at Real Trumpilius. He got it on Twitter. All right. Thanks a lot, Marty. That'll try to make it in the rotation. Can't promise you.
I've got this big box.
You go first. This one's heavy.
This one's heavy, too.
It's not a contest here.
I'm not saying it's all for me.
We both got our gains.
I don't. I'm losing weight at like a rapid pace. It's kind of scary.
You gotta hit the MMA gym with me. All right.
It's from Daniel. I can't. Daniel Kuij, New Berlin, Netherlands. Hi, Pat and Ian. Love your podcast here in the Netherlands. Your scumbag videos are priceless and a good warning.
Haven't done one in a while.
What I really liked about your podcast is that I have played games I never heard about and really liked them, although some, like Little Samson, I had to emulate that one because it's really expensive, even in Europe. but I never would have thought of that game if it wasn't for you two. I grew up with the Philips Video Pack and NES. Those were my
Which was the Odyssey 2.
Yep. Those were my first console as a kid, and been a Nintendo fan ever since, although I see the gems from Sony and Microsoft. I think you have to take the gems of all of them and see what you like yourself and be open to things you never knew. That's right. I've included some gifts for you two. Ian, I hope you like the gift I included for you. I've included a Dutch version for fun, and I hope you like the English one. I have given them a good home for years and taken care of them to keep them good, so I hope they find a good home with you. If you don't like them, you can also say that. I won't mind. Pat, I included a little gift for you, which you probably will see what it is by the shape. I also included something for your DS collection. Hope you like it and do not have it already. I also included some sweets that you can divide equally among each other. Hope you like them. I think Ian will like the one which has chocolate in it. I think the real secret of the podcast is that in the time that you have done it, you have not grown 3 times your size with all the candy. Somehow, you should start a Pat and Ian fitness podcast with regular stadium event sessions.
Oh no, they don't have our YouTuber going after me for not having 100% gaming content on my channel.
I have a question for you two. Pat, what in Europe that has never come out in the US would you love to come to the NES in the day? And is there a holy grail of NES collecting in Europe like the proportions of stadium events in Little Samson? And Ian, where did the fascination with Mahjong games start and why are they so good for you? Don't mind my bad English if it read a little weird because I'm not a super English writer. Looking forward to your book. Actually, your letter read quite well. For me, the Mahjong games fascination started when I ended up with a strip Mahjong game in my PC Engine collection. I told myself I would never keep any game for the PC Engine I wouldn't play, so I taught myself how to play it. It was a pretty hard road. I had fun with it. They're cheap, so I decided I'd start collecting them.
Mr. Gimmick should have came over here. In terms of grails in Europe, I think that would probably be Rodland. Would be the biggest, I think, hard-to-find PAL NES game, I believe, along with Mr. Gimmick. And that's Toffee. I'm guessing one's for each of us.
Yo, Toffee.
Toffee.
Oh, this is heavy. Some drops. A present for Pat.
Want me to get the drops? I will not eat these. Is this licorice?
I got drops too. I think they're salty licorice.
Licorice, I can't handle. Frank, I'll give it to Frank. Frank loves licorice.
These. Here you go.
Oh, just in case we didn't have enough of them.
A kid mix.
Okay.
Some nice DS stuff for Pat.
Okay. I'll open the DS stuff.
And a toffee fay.
Oh.
And I will open this one.
Well, I'll keep that for my grandkids, a toffee. Oh, yeah, baby. It's a signed Danny Sullivan postcard. Look at that. It's a sign. Look at that. Signed Danny Sullivan.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh, man.
Is that a real signature? I think got it signed. And then, what was the other thing? Nice drop.
Oh.
What'd you get?
X-Men stuff.
Oh.
Dawn of Apocalypse, Twilight of the Apocalypse, Legion Quest, so much X-Men stuff.
Yeah, you're going to be busy. Oh, they're trade paperbacks.
This is so cool. Thank you, dude.
Show the camera a little bit, some of these. Show them the
Age of Apocalypse, Onslaught.
I haven't read Age of Apocalypse. I should read that.
The Front Line. I have the Storm.
Jesus.
Comrades in Arms. To the Victor. This is sweet.
I also have a Live Fast, Play Faster postcard sent.
Thanks, man. That's
and
great.
He also sent me a Lucario Japanese amiibo.
Nice.
Which is cool. Oh, ooh, it got crushed here. Hope it wasn't. Uh-oh. Got a little banged up. I'll try to repair it. I'll use some heat. Heat will do a job on it, right? It'll uncrush the bubble. That's really cool, though.
The gold ones of these are really cool.
And I got one more. Here, I got the letter. Okay. This is from Chris. Pat and Ian, hope all is well with you both and enjoy your podcast on YouTube. It helps me get through the week. Pat, I have to mention that I recently met a guy who helps out at the game store I frequent. His name was, I won't say his full name, was Kyle. Well, anyway, he said he is a moderator on Nintendo Age forums. I won't repeat what he said, but it was quite colorful language about you. Oh, see? and I'm the one thinking that they don't really like me. Ian and Pat, your discussions and banner are a gem of unbiased Unbiased something, keep it up. Programming. Ian, I have to ask, in Doom when you beat the Cyber Demon and then teleport to Hell, were you pissed you had to fight him again? Ask Frankie if he has ever had Carling's Blade Label beer? Or Blue Label beer. Enclosure some goodies. For Ian, poster, 2 Super Famicom games, 2 DVDs, and Overwatch wristband.
Sweet.
There's your poster.
Awesome. Ooh, it's Asuka.
For Pat,
Thank you.
Retron 1, Super Street Fighter 2 for Super Nintendo, Street Fighter Alpha for PS1. Ooh, I know that. And both candy. So we have some double bubble.
Yeah.
You like that?
I do.
We have some more Haribo,
Yeah.
but it's different. It's sour. You get one, I get one.
Awesome.
We have some sweet and sour pops that we can split. Another double bubble. I guess that one's for me.
Yeah, it sure is.
There's the Retron 1. Here's Battletech for Genesis, which was not mentioned as being a part of this. Oh, there's a back. I also hope to hear from you guys. Oh, I also sent stuff via Amazon. Candy 1990s and a DVD.
Oh, that was from him. Okay.
Oh, that was 2 separate packages. Question for both of you. What is the most I should pay for a Sega Genesis and Sega CD?
I don't know.
P.S. I may run into you guys at some point. I have a family in San Diego and plan to visit in the next few years. Have a safe summer. Thanks, Chris.
Oh, I think I ran into him the other day at Luna because I think he was from out of town and he goes, "When are you guys doing an unboxing?"
Oh, you could have mentioned that. Gundam F91. I think that's for Ian.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, I'm jealous of that. Z, Away to the New Type. Looks like a sort of mech shooter, maybe? I don't know.
Oh, it's another Gundam game.
Oh.
Awesome.
Okay. We have a bunch of comics that it's not specified who they go to, though. Yeah. So he may have threw these in the last minute. We have some Web of Spider-Man. Ooh, Daredevil, Man Without Fear series.
That's good stuff.
You have some Avengers from the 90s, Secret Defenders, Spider-Man, Green Lantern Guardians. I'll go through these later with Ian. We can divvy that up. DVDs are for you, correct? We have Rocco's Modern Life.
Yeah.
Which is a great show. Helsing Impure Souls.
That's cool.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
And then here's my Super Street Fighter 2. Thank you. And this is a long box Street Fighter Alpha on PlayStation.
That's awesome.
It's fantastic. Thank you so much.
That's cool.
Oh yeah. I've never seen this before at the swap meet. Really cool stuff. It's a different case though. It's Kilik, the DNA imperative is the case.
That was an early first-person shooter.
And then there's the Retron 1 in there. Use it as your test console at Luna. You could, right?
Maybe, yeah.
We have some DC Wonder Woman from the 80s.
That's awesome.
A lot of Wonder Woman, actually. I read a little bit Wonder Woman, not too much as a kid. So these are all Wonder Woman, so I'll split these with Ian later. But thank you so much. If you want to send this stuff, it's CU Podcast, care of Pat Contry, P.O. Box 7695, San Diego, California, 92167. If you want to sponsor the podcast, email cupodcast@thepunkeffect.com. You'll get views, hopefully make money on your business and or website and or YouTube and or Twitter. Twibber.
The trouble with Twibbers.
And we got this book that's first shipment started to show up in Europe. So it's a real product. People have them. They're tweeting them out. Ultimate Nintendo Guide to the NES Library. Go to ultimatnes.com to pre-order it. Get the digital version. And also the beta version of the app I will be testing this month. So for Ian Ferguson,
goodbye.
I'm Pat Contry. I will see you at a couple events coming up. Ian will see you again soon as well. And on the podcast, yeah?
Yeah.